All right. Well, good afternoon, and welcome to Graduate Philadelphia's 15-year anniversary celebration. My name is Malik Brown, and I am the Executive Director of Graduate Philadelphia. We are so very excited and honored that you can join us this afternoon. Before I jump into the celebratory nature of our event, we did want to take a moment to acknowledge the life of Walter Wallace. We just want to send our prayers, our thoughts to his family, and we certainly want to send healing to our city, region, and country. For many of us, it's been a challenging year for so many individuals and family. As a city, region, and country, we have navigated a deadly pandemic. We have wrestled and toiled over the murder of George Floyd and other victims that we have tragically lost. We have witnessed firsthand the high rates of job loss and economic dislocation. With all of this as a backdrop, we thought it was really important to take pause and to reflect and to celebrate our anniversary, to celebrate our adult learners, our adult comebackers, and our frontline workers. You know, the workers and the learners that are the pulse of our city, the unsung heroes that maintain our richness, our beauty, and our dynamism. I really love the video that was played at the top of this program because it really speaks to the richness of our city. And we at Graduate Philadelphia are fighting against the notion of a tale of two cities. We want all of our citizens to experience our museums and our parks and our restaurants. We are working to help our adult learners reach a little higher and go a little further. I believe fervently that education can still be our society's great equalizer, but it has to be complemented by targeted investments in disconnected communities, social networks, training and development, professional mentorship, and access channels to opportunity. We at Graduate Philadelphia are certainly at a moment of reflection. As we celebrate 15 years, we take a look back on all that has been accomplished and look forward to an exciting future. That is why it's more important than ever to support adult learners so that they are set for success in a rapidly changing workplace and economic landscape. Throughout this afternoon's program, you will see a text to give option at the bottom of your screen. If you have the means to support our work and mission, we ask that you consider a donation. We'll also include this information in the chat feature. For so many organizations, large and small, 2020 has been a challenging year. For so many, we've had to move our operations to an online service delivery model. We've had to navigate some funding cuts due to the economic impacts of COVID. And we had to work through a spinoff of Graduate Philadelphia affiliate to standing up Graduate Philadelphia as a standalone legal entity. If you are out of breath, I certainly understand. But through it all, we stayed focused on our North Star, a compass and guiding light that has led us to new opportunities and new partnerships and opportunity for increased scale and deeper impact. So what can you expect from this afternoon's program? We have, when we thought about this program back in May, we wanted to make sure that we accomplished a few key objectives. Number one, we wanted to honor the founding of Graduate Philadelphia and our co-founders. Number two, we wanted to create a space for our signature partners to showcase their innovations and their offerings. We also wanted to celebrate our adult comebackers, and we wanted to share our vision for the next iteration and the next chapter of Graduate Philadelphia. At every turn and program block, you will have a chance to see our work, some of it through the eyes of our customers and some of it through the lens of our partners. We'll be with you from now until about 5:30 p.m. today. You can view the schedule lineup below. We also invite you to share your thoughts, share your ideas, and share your questions throughout this afternoon in the chat function. And don't forget to tag us if you are posting to social media at Graduate Philadelphia on Twitter and using hashtag GradPhilly15. At this time, I want to give a really big thank you to our board of directors. These directors include Board Chair Pat Eiding of the Philadelphia Council AFL-CIO, Jeanie Heffernan of Independence Blue Cross, and Rebecca Foreman of the Linfest Institute for Journalism. I also want to take this moment to call out every one of our sponsoring organizations that helped to make this event happen. Let me give a really big, resounding thank you to our title sponsor, Accenture, for being our sponsor and for being a great supporter. We also want to thank our presenting sponsors, Comcast and TD Bank. And we want to thank the rest of our sponsors, Verizon, Independence Blue Cross, Lumina Foundation, the Public Health Management Corporation, Community College of Philadelphia, the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, United Way, Citizens Bank, PIDC, and PICO. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors for helping to make this event possible. I also want to take just a moment to thank all of our host committee members. I want to thank Ann Nevins, Phil Fitzgerald, Jeanie Heffernan, John Colborn, Pat Eiding, Jeff Hornstein, Councilman Derek Green, Rebecca Foreman, Chantel Fitzgerald, Sulaiman Rahman, Harold Epps, Lauren Nessler, Jim Urgiati, and Karnisha Kwashi. Thank you so much to our host committee for making this happen. And lastly, I want to thank our team at Graduate Philadelphia, Anthony and Denise. I want to thank Teresa Spencer of Vintage Green. I want to thank the amazing Witty Gritty team for helping to make this event happen. And lastly, but not least, I want to give a very special thank you to Hadass Sheffer, the co-founder and founding executive of Graduate Philadelphia. This event, this 15-year anniversary would not be possible without the leadership and the impact and the vision of Hadass for blazing this trail and really energizing the movement around adult degree completion. Now, moving right along, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Megan Vesely. Megan is the managing director at Accenture here in Philadelphia, and she provides strategic guidance and consulting to a lot of great companies here in our region. Let me say to Megan and the entire Accenture team, thank you for your sponsorship and support. It means a lot to our board and the people we serve. I have to say, because I'm an Accenture Management Consulting alum, it is extra special to have the support and friendship of Accenture. Accenture's core purpose is to deliver on the power of technology and human ingenuity. At a time like this in our country, I think of no greater core purpose and no greater corporate citizen. Please help me, Graduate Philadelphia, welcome Megan Vesely.
I will be, or? Okay. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Megan Vesely, Managing Director with Accenture, and I'm thrilled to join Malik, the presenters, and all of you for what I expect will be an exciting and inspiring afternoon. First, on behalf of Accenture, I'd like to congratulate Malik and the Graduate Philadelphia team on their 15 years of achievement in learning and opportunity advancement for more than thousands of individuals. I think we can all agree that 2020 has been a year like no other and has undoubtedly put a spotlight on the economic disparities that exist in our community. Education is so key to closing these economic gaps, and organizations like Graduate Philadelphia play such a critical role in providing adults with the resources and support that they need to pursue a college degree. The mission and vision of Graduate Philadelphia aligns very closely to some of the initiatives that we're working to advance internally within Accenture. Technology advancements such as analytics, robotics, and artificial intelligence are very much reshaping the future of work by automating routine tasks, making it increasingly important for the human workforce to develop the cognitive skills required to execute more complex work. Accenture's focus on reskilling and upskilling individuals to create a vibrant and diverse workforce is very much aligned to Graduate Philadelphia's commitment to creating opportunities and empowering individuals of all backgrounds. That's why we're so happy to be a partner in collaborating to advance adult learning and a sponsor of today's event. Very much looking forward to it. Back to you, Malik.
Okay, Megan, thank you so much for your remarks, for your friendship, and for your partnership. We are so grateful again to have the support of Accenture. I am looking forward to our future partnership, particularly around your skills to succeed and future of work initiatives. I am so excited to introduce our next featured guest who will give you a trip down memory lane. Sallie Glickman is the co-founder of the Graduate Network and interim CEO. You are in for a real treat. Sallie was there at the very beginning when the graduate movement got started. Sallie is going to talk about some of our early partners. She will talk about the origins of Graduate Philadelphia being rooted in equity, and she will give us a collective call to action. Most importantly, Sallie will take a little bit of time to honor one of our heroes, Hadass Sheffer, who was one of the co-founders and founding executive of Graduate Philadelphia. I would not be here in this seat, as I've mentioned earlier, without Hadass and Sallie laying the groundwork and blazing a trail for others to follow. She'll give you an overview of Graduate Philadelphia's work through the years to help set the stage for how we can work together moving forward and continuing to build the right equitable systems for adult comebackers in Greater Philadelphia and throughout the region. With that said, please, Graduate Philadelphia, help me welcome Sallie Glickman.
My name is Jeanie Heffernan, and I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer.
Thank you, Malik, and to all of you for welcoming me. We're all shaped by our upbringing, experience, and choices. As many of you may appreciate, Graduate Philadelphia is highly Thank you, Malik, and to all of you for welcoming me. We are all shaped by our upbringing, experience, and choices. As you may appreciate, Graduate Philadelphia is highly personal to me. So at this 15th anniversary celebration, I am delighted to share a slice of the journey that brought us here today. The graduate model, in many different forms, is impacting lives across the country. Today, I have the privilege of working every day toward a future where aspirations drive action and systems in place to support those aspirations are up to the challenge. This is a vision that could only have been born here in our city. I'd argue, in fact, that the path that brought us together today began in 1887. If we were in a room together and could interact, I'd ask if anyone knows or can guess what happened that year. If you looked at the Wikipedia timeline for Philadelphia, which obviously I did, you would learn that this was 4 years after the Philadelphia Phillies were formed and 4 years before the Philadelphia Free Library was established. But in 1887, you would only see one listing, the U.S. Constitution Centennial. What better way to celebrate such a momentous anniversary than by taking a step forward on the path to economic equity? Because in 1887, it's also the year that Reverend Russell Conwell founded Temple University and brought to life his belief that the path to personal success was education, and that educated persons in turn were obligated to serve the less fortunate and to help them realize their full potential. Since I wasn't born in 1887, my milestone didn't come for another 100 years until the Constitution's bicentennial. I had been invited to study at Temple and had the opportunity to work at the Russell Conwell Center. I tutored fellow students in a bridge program designed for those from the immediate neighborhood who were struggling. I came to this work with compassion because I too had struggled to adapt, but it was in high school, not college, when I went from a relatively rural school district in Northeast Pennsylvania to a highly competitive district in Montgomery County. 11th grade was not a good year for me, and I had teachers who literally called me stupid because I had not yet learned to approach the work required of me in the advanced classes where I was placed. I could have easily been derailed. Fortunately, I previously acquired the foundation skills and had a support system, including 2 college-educated parents, that enabled me to recover. At the Russell Kelmwell Center, I came to appreciate that whatever my individual gifts, I was not extraordinary in any way. In fact, I became a better person because of the opportunity to help those who had the courage to persevere. I was in awe of all of them, who were by and large smarter than me and had more grit and resilience than I could possibly have acquired in my young life. What they didn't have was the benefit of a college-educated adult in their lives to support them as my parents had been equipped to support me. So as a daughter of our great city and a graduate of Temple, I began to make my way in the world with a belief that we were laying waste to tremendous potential and would never be whole without equity of access and opportunity. A decade later, I found myself in a position where I had a chance to right some of the many things I saw as needing fixing. I'd been asked to provide staff leadership to the city's workforce board and coordinate a vast range of disconnected services and programs. To say it was complicated is an understatement. When David Thornburg, who as many of you know is my partner in the founding of Graduate, and I first met, he said, and this is a quote, "You know, Sallie, when I think of workforce development, it feels like I'm drowning in quicksand." But I was once again fortunate. I had a bright and committed board of leaders like those of you here today. They provided sage and patient counsel and collectively helped codify what were about. We wrote our first strategic plan in 1999 and defined the purpose of the workforce system as giving residents control over their careers. So we got a bit closer to Graduate, but we weren't there yet. As with so many things, inspiration comes as a reaction to something else. The last part of the 20th century saw the decline of manufacturing in our city, the rise of knowledge-based industries, and the aging of the nation's most educated generation. We were desperate for college graduates. Philadelphia was 92nd out of the 100 largest cities in the percentage of adults with a bachelor's degree, and lower than that in our labor force participation rates. We were a region seeking a way forward. The big civic solution was to aggressively recruit traditional age students from across the globe to enroll in over the 100 accredited colleges and universities in our region, actively and intentionally help them to become more connected to our community while they are in school, and build deep recruiting relationships with employers to keep them here after graduation. This work continues today through and has done much to positively impact our city. Nevertheless, it was only one part of the solution. Sitting where we are today, the gap in this strategy may be obvious, but 20 years ago, comebackers were invisible. So David and I got together and started promoting a grow our own strategy. We posited that current residents could potentially complete faster than incoming freshmen, already had roots in our community, and in fact could move the needle far more rapidly and efficiently than in fact a single resident completer had twice the impact on improving our percentages than a new graduate who stayed. David and I met with college presidents, suggested they look at students who stopped out and invite them back. We met with city elected leadership. We met with our major institutions. In fact, we met with anyone who would talk to us. We both had full-time jobs. We would never be here today if it were not for the first person willing to take a chance on what seemed, at the time, a crazy idea. That was Hadass Sheffer. The day that Hadass took a chance on the two of us and our nascent vision of the future is really the beginning. David reminisced recently that we basically charted a framework for our work on a napkin at the Trolley Car Diner in the Northwest. The napkin is long gone, as is the diner, but if you saw it, then it would look something like a three-legged stool. First, we'd raise awareness about the population of comebackers, which Hadass named and described. I still recall how I felt the first time the New York Times used that term. Second, we'd work with higher education and financial aid institutions to put more adult-friendly strategies in place, such as waiving application fees, promoting prior learning assessments, and flexible scheduling. Finally, we create an umbrella and platform for all the programs that we're working with adults to help them enroll or return to college. And we found, to our surprise and dismay, that there was no one working on this. So we had awareness down, we had policy pretty well mapped out, and when it came to practice, we saw nothing but blue ocean. What happened next is so wonderfully and uniquely Philadelphia. United Way, under the leadership of Alba Martinez and David Fair, stepped up to help underwrite our evolving efforts with a commitment of more than $200,000 per year. Matt Bergheiser, then at the Knight Foundation and now doing extraordinary things at University City District, went to his board to secure nearly $1 million to design around an idea and evaluate its impact. And college leadership across the region, led by our dear friend Jim Murgiati and so many others, put aside competition to collaborate on a new comebacker-centered way of thinking about the path to educational attainment. They did it when this was all an experiment. Collectively, they brought forward the promise of Philadelphia being the modern age equivalent of the workshop of the world. I studied history and I know the past matters. So now you know a bit more than you might have known before. But today's about the present and the future and what we do for the nearly 180,000 potential comebackers in Philadelphia. Consider these sobering facts. On the financial side, based on average earnings by educational attainment and the self-sufficiency calculator, our neighbors cannot afford to raise a child in Philadelphia without public support if they do not have at least a bachelor's degree. As an equity issue, people who identify as white alone are 272% more likely to have a bachelor's degree than those who identify as Black alone, and 366% more likely than our neighbors who identify as Hispanic or Latinx. I suspect every one of us here today has a degree or is on their way to one. For those of us with influence in every industry, the degree is the currency that got us in the door. There are those who say that employers should hire based on skills or a credential should be enough. Maybe, but I ask you all to consider the path you'd want your child to take if they were college age. Children follow their parents' example, and your children have yours. I had mine, who were equipped through their experience to help me succeed and persevere when I was struggling. For all of us, when we have the chance to achieve our aspirations, great things can happen. Graduate Philadelphia's intent is simple: to ensure everyone who aspires to a career that requires a degree has someone in their lives who previously made their way to and through college. Today, I challenge every one of you to use your power and influence to make that happen for all our neighbors. If you want some ideas about what you can do within your own spheres of control and influence, the team at the Graduate Network are available and open to working with Graduate Philadelphia's board and staff. We do not judge. I'm a co-founder and a first funder. And I certainly believe that I don't believe that everyone should go to college or pursue a career that requires a degree. Graduate simply offers a path to achievement of an individual's aspirations. So we need to ask the question, open the door, and champion a way forward for those who opt in. It is our duty that we exercise our leadership in ways that provide a path to opportunity. Russell Conwell said it best: greatness consists not in the holding of some future office, but really consists of great deeds with little means and the accomplishment of past purposes from the private ranks of life. To be great at all, one must be great here, now, in Philadelphia. Thank you.
All right, so thank you so much, Sallie, for grounding us in this work of adult degree completion and grounding us in the history of Graduate Philadelphia and its origins. So we really appreciate you giving us a walk down memory lane. I also want to, again, just give a special shout out and a special acknowledgement to Hadash Sheffer. I remember back in 2018, when I was still at Peirce College, where Hadass and I had coffee in Center City. We talked about the future of Graduate Philadelphia and the Graduate Network. I started out on the Graduate Network side, actually traveling quite a bit. And then last year around this time, moved over to Graduate Philadelphia to serve as Executive Director. And again, thank you, Sallie. Thank you, Hadass. Thank you, John and the board for this extraordinary opportunity now to move from Executive Director of the program affiliate to President of the Graduate Philadelphia. So thank you, thank you, thank you. No words can actually capture the appreciation and gratitude that we all have for you and for the work that has inspired a national movement. Cheers to you. Next on the agenda, I would like to welcome back Megan Vesely, again, who is the Managing Director of Accenture, and she will introduce our next session. Megan, back to you.
Right, so the Graduate Philadelphia team has lined up a number of amazing local leaders in business and education to discuss the role that higher education and workforce development is playing in the region's economic, health, and social recovery. So from here, I'll hand over to Sulaiman, CEO of DiverseForce, who will join two of my close colleagues for a discussion on what corporations and the business community can do to support adult learners in today's economic environment. Over to you, Sulaiman.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Thank you for that introduction, and excited to have this conversation today. All right, technology, gotta love it, but won't stop us. Thank you, Megan, for the introduction. Excited to be a part of this 15-year anniversary for Graduate Philadelphia, and to be here with dynamic business leaders who are supporting this amazing organization and initiatives in our communities to really strengthen the pipeline. We have David Davis from Accenture. We also have Jeanie Heffernan from IBX. Excited to hear from them and hear their input on how we really move the market and build a pipeline here in Philadelphia. And I'm just going to ask, we'll start with Jeanie, if you don't mind, to tell us about your role, your background, and how you're supporting Graduate Philadelphia currently.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sulaiman. So, Jeanie Heffernan, I have the privilege of being the Executive Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer for Independence Blue Cross. And we have had a very long-term relationship with Graduate Philadelphia. It goes all the way back to 2011. What that means as a corporate partner, we've been with them every step of the way, not only financially, but in terms of our representation and utilization of their programs and their offerings to our associates. I also have been on the board and the advisory committee since 2014, and over 1,100 of our 4,000 associates have actively taken advantage of their workshops and their advisory and counseling services. Currently, we have 90 associates who are actively pursuing their degree. And personally, I'm a comebacker, so this is near and dear to my heart. And so I think that's why I've been involved for so long, not only at the corporate level, but on a personal and professional level. So thank you for having me this afternoon, and I look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. I love that. Comebackers. I love it. And we'll go now to David. Same question, role, background, and how you're supporting Graduate Philadelphia.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Can you hear me, Sulaiman?
Loud and clear.
Hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. David Davis with Accenture. I'm a managing director, and I lead our education and state and local government practice here in Pennsylvania. My focus is primarily on government and making sure that government is working for its constituents, the people it's intended to serve. This includes higher education, K through 12, city and state government clients, and public sector services. My affiliation to Graduate is primarily my longstanding relationship with Malik, who you heard from earlier. He's like a distant cousin, a much older, wiser cousin. Kidding, Malik, kidding. But no, I've known Malik for many years. He knows our family. We go way back. But most recently, Accenture and Graduate have partnered, really working to connect job seekers to the services they need to make informed decisions about their careers. So we'll talk a little bit more about it throughout the course of the panel, but Accenture Skills to Succeed program, particularly our learning exchange, is something that we recently introduced with Graduate as well as Philadelphia Works.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I know that Graduate Philadelphia, part of their theory of change is that the higher learning or higher education sector needs to really build strong partnerships with business, and also to be agile enough to adapt to the future of work, to kind of this fourth industrial revolution or the digital economy. Would you mind sharing how companies, how businesses can help to support this community of adult learners?
Sure, I'll jump in if you don't mind, David.
Sure.
So at Independence, our philosophy is our associates are our main assets, hands down. And many of our jobs are such where you can come into the organization without a bachelor's degree, but our goal is to really invest and have our associates grow, thrive, and develop. And if they so choose to go on and get a degree, all the better, because this way they will choose to remain with us and we have the retention for the long haul. And healthcare is a very complicated industry with always changing processes, procedures, use of technology, et cetera, et cetera. So our philosophy is if we can add to our benefit offerings a program such as Graduate Philadelphia, that is only going to benefit us in the long haul. So we have many different ways of investing in our associates, whether it's their compensation, their benefit offerings, but we have an internal organization called Independence University, and that's where we really provide the technical skills, professional development, mentoring programs, so forth. But then in addition, we have what we call our university partnerships, and that's where we negotiate with universities in our geographic footprint where they come on site and allow our associates to take advantage, well, it was on site up until 2020, take advantage of going back to school and getting a degree and making it as user-friendly as possible, because our job is to meet our associates where they are in terms of their journey. And so to offer Graduate Philadelphia and their workshops and advisory programs to help break down the fear, the barriers, the worries and concerns is just an added icing on the cake, if you will, for our associates to really get to where they want to be for the long haul.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
Yeah, I was able to dial in just towards the tail end of hearing Sallie talk about access and opportunity. And I do fundamentally believe that education and access are the pathways to eliminating poverty and closing or at least lessening the digital divide. So it's all about creating non-traditional pathways for candidates to get access and experience. So how might we in the business community create cultures of continuous learners? And I can tell you with Accenture, we believe in apprenticeship model, and particularly at the local level, where we think it's critical to helping to ignite interest in technology fields and building a pipeline to address the skill gap. And so Accenture's apprenticeship program has helped to address the skill gap and really new skill those whose skills have been or will be disrupted by automation. And so last year we did 300 new apprentices in Canada and the United States, and that brings the total close to 500 people that have gone through the apprenticeship model. When we originally launched our Skills to Succeed initiative, which is the partnership that we've also done with Philly Works as well as with Graduate, when we originally launched the Skills to Succeed, our original goal was to equip more than 3 million people with the skills to get jobs or build a business. And we surpassed that. So we exceeded our goal and continue to do that. Just this year, we launched our Black Founders Development Program, which is really aimed to help level the playing field for Black technology startup founders and entrepreneurs through investments, mentorship, community, and overall support. So creating that foundation for people to be successful.
Awesome. And David talked about apprenticeships. Jeanie, how's IBX? Are you guys doing anything around apprenticeships?
Very fascinating. Hot off the press, I literally just had a meeting last week to evaluate a program with one of our consulting partners, Aon, who also have an apprenticeship model out there, and they pitched it to us to consider, and my team and I evaluated it, and we're very, very interested and intrigued about, learn and earn. So taking the underemployed into our pipeline, invest in them, pay them while they go to school, and this way we really have created a wonderful new innovative pipeline for talent for us for the future. So it looks very promising that is something we will be moving down a path to do.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. And it's no secret right now, many of us are working from home. COVID, has no predictable end in sight. And sometimes with great crisis comes great opportunities as well. I'm curious your insight, David, on what are some of the potential challenges and or opportunities for adult learners in this time where many of us are remote?
Yeah, well, great question. I mean, I think for those who've been in the Philadelphia area for a while, workforce was a concern pre-COVID. And in many ways, we were grappling with the question of what does the future of work look like with a lens towards equity and inclusive growth. And COVID has only exacerbated the problem, right? So what was a problem is now just so much greater. Accenture recently just published data that 77% of workers laid off or furloughed expected to be rehired at the start of the pandemic. And like 40% will experience permanent job loss. So without the right skills, training, and post-secondary credentials, many adults and young people will continue to find themselves really stuck in low skill and low wage jobs or worse. So post-pandemic, access to opportunity jobs will be critical for workers who have less than a bachelor's degree to get them out of poverty and earning a living wage. So I know I'm not painting a really good picture, but I'm just saying what was a challenge before is an even far greater challenge today. We've heard the expression, don't waste a crisis. How does that apply today in this current environment? Competition will be tough. It will be a competitive landscape for all workers, particularly for adult workers. So taking advantage of this time to really upskill, to take advantage of the opportunity to learn, to be a continuous learner. We talk a lot about being a continuous learner and what that means. The idea of how do I, and again, this speaks a lot to the work that Graduate does, but also the work that we partnered with them on is how do you figure out what's next for you and not just being complacent and kind of waiting for the storm to be weathered, but really figuring out now in this critical time, what are the skills that you need to be successful and where you want to grow yourself and your career right now as you are a continuous learner.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Jeanie, same question.
Yes, I'm aware of our time. So my view would be employers really need to be flexible, empathetic, and compassionate, and understanding this past year has been so challenging, and assess and evaluate how we can be creative to really build a talent for the future in whatever way we can. So thank you very much for having me this afternoon.
Yeah, and I think we have 2 more minutes. So maybe we could do one lightning round on the answer around just one, from what we talked about here today, what could business and higher ed do to advance adult learners in this time? What kind of call to action do you think these companies and higher learning institutions can do?
Jeanie, do you want me to start? Or do you
Sure,
want to
go ahead.
All right.
You have 60 seconds.
I would just say quickly, lean in. None of us are immune to this workforce impact, right? It's a collective responsibility for all of us. So engage on the topic, provide coaching, mentorship, but like this is all of our responsibility.
Takes a village, as they say.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a great conversation, and I will turn it back to Megan for our next segment. Thank you.
All right, so thank you so much, Sulaiman, Jeanie, and David, three of my very favorite people. I could not be more delighted, more thrilled, more honored that you took this afternoon to share with us. So thank you for your insights and thank you for your remarks. Now, you are in for a real treat. We have our Ed Talk segment coming up. We did not created out of thin air, and we weren't very original, but it is a spinoff of the popular TED Talks, in which we're calling Ed Talks. I know, not very original. This is really where you'll have an opportunity as an audience and as potential partners to really see the work of Graduate Philadelphia come to life. We have asked some of our higher education partners to really help tell our story through their lens and through their work. As we have said many times throughout the last hour, Graduate Philadelphia is in the business of helping people live out their best lives and achieve their highest dreams and aspirations, and also achieve a certain level of social and economic mobility through the levers of degree attainment, workforce preparation, and social and professional networks. We have 5 dynamic Ed Talk speakers: Dr. Mary Ellen Caro of Peirce College, Dr. Guy Generals of Community College of Philadelphia, representing higher education and an innovative work that they are doing, not only in the 2- and 4-year degree space, but also connecting stackable credentials to their work, like micro-credentials, short courses, and professional development that are all stitched together and forms a longer arc of learning over the course of an adult's professional journey. We also have community-based organizations like JEVS and OIC and Philadelphia OIC. John Colborn and Judge Renée Hughes are doing some amazing work in really connecting workforce training, career pathways, digital skills to living wage employment with wraparound supportive services. JEVS and Philadelphia OIC are iconic organizations, and we could not be more honored to have them with us. We have a real treat with Dr. Sara Goldrick-Rab from Temple University's Hope Center for College, Community, and Justice in Philadelphia. Dr. Rab has really changed the narrative around food insecurity, housing, and higher education. You're in for a real treat, and I'll tell you to sit on the edge of your seat when you hear from these amazing speakers. We've asked all of our speakers to touch on a number of event themes: career pathways, digital skills in the future of work, healthier communities, and financial empowerment. During the planning sessions, our guests asked if there was any particular theme or any particular pillar that they should focus their remarks on. And all of our guests, interestingly enough, said, our work really encompasses all of these themes, and we're going to find a way to stitch these together and to present a more holistic view of our work. I think it is really telling that all of our speakers, really stitched this together and has a really compelling testimony on why it's important to have an integrated service delivery model. The work of Graduate Philadelphia at a systems level is to serve as a convener, as a thought leader, as an organization who is impacting policy decisions. We want to make sure that we bring leaders together across sectors that are helping make people's lives just a little bit better. We do this through the power of education, through the power of workforce preparation, and through the power of career pathways that lead to living wage employment. So without further ado, please join me as we introduce Dr. Mary Ellen Caro. Dr. Caro is the president and CEO of Peirce College, and she is doing some amazing work at Peirce with her amazing team. So without further ado, Dr. Caro, I will turn it over to you for your Ed Talk.
Hello, I'm Mary Ellen Caro, the president and CEO of Peirce College, one of the founding members of Graduate Philadelphia. I'm honored to be a part of the celebration today and join my fellow speakers. Throughout the past 15 years, Graduate Philadelphia has been a key partner of ours, connecting us with great students like Robin Neary and Frank Clement. Have you ever really thought about how much our world could change in 1 year? COVID-19 has turned higher education on its head. COVID-19 has accentuated and accelerated the need for higher educational institutions to be flexible, be nimble, and find new ways to serve their students. For us at Peirce, it caused us to quickly transition from a hybrid situation where we would deliver courses on-site and online to exclusively online. It also forced us to quickly transition to remote operations. And for us, processes became one of the challenging points. We needed to have repeatable processes that were codified that could help us branch the distance that was now created by not being in the same physical space. So, what have we learned? First of all, we've learned that it's not over, that this continues, and as such, the solutions that we are creating have to meet the needs today as well as looking into the future. We find that our adult learners are saying, I may need to rethink when I start. I may need to take fewer courses. And I'm concerned about whether or not I can dedicate the time to this, to my current job, and to new demands that my family is bringing. As an adult learner myself, I know what it's like to take on the challenges of education. I had 3 small children when I embarked on my second master's. That's really nothing compared to the grit I see every day with our students. It was clear to us early on that our students missed coming to campus. They missed those personal connections that Peirce offers. So here are some of the things that we did. We included live sessions within the coursework. That way a student could connect with the faculty and other classmates through a real-life session. That enabled a student to really feel that they were in the classroom, even though they were separated by distance. As COVID-19 continued and our students felt the impact, they shared with us their concerns about being able to stay enrolled. We created for them the pass no grade option, and that helped relieve some of the pressure for our students. We've learned that being stackable, being modular in our offerings is important. Students may not be able to sign up for a whole degree at this point. So many of them have been impacted economically, but they may be able to take a certificate, take a piece of this education that's relevant. The individual mosaic of learning and mastery is important. Whether it's military training, on-the-job training, or mastery learned by job experiences. Higher education needs to become more proactive in taking those opportunities, translating them into credit, and for each and every student formulating their own unique path that accelerates where they want to go. Flexibility is critical to adults that are coming back to finish their degree. In fact, Tara Butler sums it up very well.
Having all my credits transfer and be applied towards my new degree helped me save time and money. I have work, I have kids. Without Peirce, I wouldn't have my degree today.
We're starting to understand the permanent effects of COVID-19 and what the future of work may begin to look like. One thing's for sure, it will be different. Peirce continues to be an advocate for the underserved. Equity and addressing the disparate impacts of COVID-19 remain integral in our approach. It is about helping people transform their lives. I am humbled to be the president and CEO, and I am so fortunate to be able to work with great partners like Graduate Philadelphia. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
So next we want to bring along Jamil Rush. Jamil is the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion for Airmark, and we also want to invite Gwyneth Gall, Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships and Community Impact from Comcast NBC Universal. Jamil and Gwyneth, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate you celebrating our 15-year anniversary with us. Dr. Caro, we have Jamil and Gwyneth as our official correspondents for your Ed Talk, and we'll give you about 10 minutes to have a little conversation and a little bit of a Q&A. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jamil, and to you, Gwyneth. Take it away.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much, Malik, and thank you to the graduate team for allowing me to be a part of this conversation. And I'm so honored to be here with Gwyneth and to speak to Dr. Caro about all of the great things she's doing at Peirce College. So we'll turn it quickly over to you, Dr. Caro, and I'd love to hear from you about some of the things that Peirce is doing specifically to support diversity and inclusion through your support of different recovery efforts in Philadelphia.
Thank you, Jamil, and I'm delighted to be here live and in person with both you and Gwyneth. To answer that question, I need to provide a little context about Peirce College. As many of you know, Peirce College is a private, exclusively dedicated to adult institution in the center of Philadelphia. We are proud to be a minority-serving institution, predominantly Black, and the average age of our student is about 35 and mostly female. So let's start right there. We have dedicated our mission to help individuals transform their lives through education by focusing on underserved populations, predominantly women. But through our 155 years, we have gone from serving returning Civil War veterans to serving more traditional students to now serving those adults. And many of our adults really fit the definition of comebackers. So we are, by serving them, really contributing, we believe, to equity and to closing the digital divide, because we believe so strongly that education really is a piece of the components that help folks.
That's great. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Gwyneth now.
Right. Thanks so much. So you talked a little bit about this notion of stackable and modular education. Super interesting, and was just hoping that maybe you could expand upon that and how you think that could have impact on the underserved populations you're serving.
Absolutely. Many of our students bring previous credits and previous mastery to their pathway. And we like to talk about an individualized path for each student. Now that begins with this notion of education and learning building upon each other. So we take a very generous transfer policy for students, up to 90 credits and even more depending upon the program. We believe that those students can bring not only previous credits from accredited institutions into this new degree path, but also training they may have received at their corporation, supervisory training and other training that may have already been assessed for credit that we can then give. Military students bring their training. So you add transfer credits, you then add training that we can provide credits for, and add on top of that prior learning assessment. That provides a modular stackable approach. What makes it unique and really appropriate for this population is the fact that none of this training goes unused towards a degree. And a student can start with a certificate of 12 credits with all of these sources of credit I've talked about. That can fit inside an associate's degree, which can fit inside a baccalaureate degree. And that really provides them with milestones along the pathway to whatever their ultimate goal is, if it's a baccalaureate degree or a master's degree. So once again, it supports this notion of continuous learning, but also the fact that learning does not only come in a classroom. It comes from all of the other experiences. This provides an accelerated path for adults because they find out, well, I'm halfway on my way to a degree, which is wonderful. And it also provides more affordability. If a student doesn't have to take another 9 credits, another 12 credits, that's really of value to them and provides them, hopefully, without having to take on increased debt.
Thank you for that. That's really interesting and perhaps more applicable now than ever before.
And you know, Dr. Caro, we obviously all of our lives have been impacted by the pandemic, but certainly one of the things we know is that it hasn't impacted all communities equally. And there are certainly communities where there have been disproportionate impacts versus others. And you spoke in your conversation around the disproportionate impact that the pandemic has had on Peirce students. So I'd love to hear from you about some of the things you're doing at Peirce to specifically address the impacts the pandemic has had on your students.
Absolutely. Peirce has always offered all of our courses online, but we had a very unique aspect to them in that a student could choose to come on campus during their 8-week course any week that they wanted to and take that weekly course session in person. So with the pandemic, we needed to go exclusively online, and about 25% of our students could not take advantage of coming on campus. We also found that in order for them to make that transition to exclusively online learning, they were suffering from, in many cases, an inability to access the internet, an inability to have the equipment that they needed, and that's right at the heart of the digital divide. So what we did immediately was to get in contact with current and new students and find out if they were suffering from equipment issues. And if so, we were able to give out personal computers, help them with access so that they could be on the internet. But also, they were facing childcare, elder care, displaced work themselves, and they couldn't really manage with one equipment piece. They had children trying to do school. So in many cases, the augmentation of giving them a personal computer really helped their entire household. We also wanted to help ease some of the stressors at the time. So we immediately put in place a pass-fail approach to their coursework. We also worked with them individually if they needed more time. And our faculty stepped up to be able to provide online, via phone, via email, coaching and tutoring to the extent that students needed it. As this went on, after we realized it wasn't 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months, we also figured out a way to include what we call synchronized learning into the sessions so that real-time sessions could be happening within the classrooms, and that connection to faculty, the connection to the other students could also be part of the experience. And we found that that really went a long way to ease the trepidation and the concern that some of our students had about abandoning an in-classroom opportunity. We also saw that many students really wanted to pursue, but they couldn't take advantage of the number of courses they were before. They needed to slow it down, maybe take a session off. We offer 6 sessions, they're about 7 or 8 weeks apiece at the undergraduate level a year. And we found that our students would have to delay a session, start up again. So the ability to work with them on planning out their year and providing guidance to them really seemed to help them understand that this is a journey and one that we're going to be there with them as they pursue it, regardless of what's happening externally.
Thank you so much. And for that intentional approach that the university took, I'm sure it made a world of difference for your students.
It did, and we also added student emergency funds. We were very lucky to have Peirce funding, but in addition to that, we were able to provide students that were suffering with some basic needs with some emergency help. And we found that in many cases that could make the difference between being able to continue and having to drop out.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. And I think just echoing Jamil's notes around the intentionality to your approach, I think is really incredible. I think we are just coming up against our time. I'm not sure if we have time for another question or if we should be moving into the next section.
And I think we'll probably get ready to move into the next session. But Dr. Caro, just as parting words for the last 15, 20 seconds here, anything you want to leave with the group?
I'd just like to say that higher education was turned on its head. It will be changing, and schools like Peirce will be trying to evolve to really fulfill that space between training and higher education. And there's a way to do that by embedding training and skills development. So the future of education will be that one of change, 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 but hopefully one that becomes more and more important to our students as they try to transform their lives.
Thank you so much, Dr. Caro. Thank you for your speech and for all the hard work that you do, and certainly for being with us here this afternoon with Graduate Philadelphia.
Thank you both, and congratulations
so much
to Graduate Philadelphia.
Education has been turned on its head. And I think we can all sleep a little better at night knowing that Peirce College is really at the tip of the spear of really reimagining higher education. And as you said, really serving at that intersection of training, professional development, and also degree attainment. So thank you, Dr. Caro, for your leadership. And a really big, being that I was at Peirce College, a special shout out to Hassan and Dr. Rita Taliba Roberts and Brad Hodge for all the great work that you guys do every day for our students. So thank you so much. And thank you, Jamil. And thank you, Gwyneth, for kicking our Ed Talk segment off. We're really just grateful for your leadership to our region. Jamil and I have known each other for a number of years. Gwyneth and I have become very good friends and partners with Comcast and Graduate Philadelphia. So again, thank you so much for being here with us. Next, we are going to introduce Judge Renée Hughes from Philadelphia OIC. Philadelphia OIC represents an exciting new partnership between Graduate Philadelphia and Philadelphia OIC. We could not be more honored. We could not be more thrilled. We could not be more delighted to have Judge Renée Hughes join us. So Judge Hughes, I am going to turn it over to you for your Ed Talks. Over to you.
Good afternoon. I'm Judge Renée Cardwell Hughes, President and CEO of the Opportunities Industrialization Center, better known to most of you as Philadelphia OIC. We are thrilled to be here with you today to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Graduate Philadelphia. Philadelphia OIC applauds Graduate Philadelphia for its critical work to increase the number of adults completing college in the Philadelphia region. Malala, a Pakistani activist for female education and the youngest Nobel Prize laureate, once said, "They cannot stop me. I will get my education. If it is in the home, if it is in the school, or any place." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we are here. Education is the key to success. Philadelphia OIC partners with Graduate Philadelphia to provide underserved communities with the skills and training necessary to obtain life-sustaining jobs, careers, opportunities. And we do this through areas of workforce development, education, and digital literacy. Digital skills are important, more important now than they have ever been. Many colleges, universities, and almost every employer has gone virtual in some form or fashion. COVID-19, the pandemic, forced us to change the way in which we operate, but it also taught us to be adaptable. The key to success is to adapt, improvise, and overcome. And that is what we do at Philadelphia OIC. We've recognized that systems and processes have changed. Automation is at the forefront of business, so we embrace technology as it evolves, and we help our citizens to become more comfortable conducting business in a virtual world. We want to ensure that no one will be left behind. In the 21st century, digital skills are essential to getting a good job and are critical for the pathways to promotion and future success. 61% of existing U.S. jobs and 69% of new jobs require digital literacy. That is the lion's share of employment opportunities. Digital literacy is essential. To obtain digital literacy, you have to know how to navigate the internet. This is what opens doors to opportunity. Building your digital skill set is a prerequisite to success. Yet, digital literacy is not available to all of us. According to Pew Research, 4 in 10 United States households do not have broadband access or even a computer in their home. It is estimated that 162 million Americans have very slow or no internet access. Only 50% of African American families have broadband access, compared to 74% of Caucasian families. That's an unacceptable number no matter how you look at it. At Philadelphia OIC, we tackle that problem head on. We have created the OIC Technology Power Skills Center. This hub allows us to provide access to the internet, computers, and trainings to citizens in our community to strengthen their digital skills and augment whatever technology needs they may have. We do this not only for individual citizens, but our programming ranges from people who don't even know how to turn on a computer to small businesses. We're here to serve, to ensure that you succeed, because a digitally savvy individual can work a full-time job while simultaneously attending college or trade school. A digitally savvy person can pursue their dreams and provide options for success. The online learning environment is global, and access is readily available if you have the digital skills. Education is a lifelong commitment. I encourage you, stay curious, stay inquisitive. I encourage you to stay adaptable. Acquire strong digital skills. It will springboard you to your next opportunity. It will enhance your marketability. It will prepare you for a better future. Thank you, Graduate Philadelphia, for this opportunity to partner with you to remove the barriers that hold our people back and create pathways to success for the underserved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Judge Hughes. I really appreciate your focus on digital skills. We know that there was a digital divide prior to the global pandemic, and we know that COVID has only exacerbated automation and our intention and being focused on the future of work and making sure that the people we serve aren't getting left behind. So we certainly appreciate your leadership around digital skills and digital literacy. So we're going to bring back our wonderful event correspondents, Jamil from Aramark and Gwyneth from Comcast NBC Universal. They are going to mix it up a little bit with Judge Hughes. And so Jamil, Gwyneth, take it away. Back over to you.
Thanks so much, Malik. And a real pleasure to be here. And thank you, Judge Hughes, for that incredible video. So I think just to build upon what Malik just shared is that you talked a lot about digital skills and digital literacy and perhaps being more important now than ever before, and just how COVID really forced you to make changes. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the ways that you've had to adapt in this time.
So, Gwyneth, thank you for the question. It's a pleasure to meet you and Jamil. I'm so excited to talk with you about this because OIC is 56 years old, so it's a historic organization. Within 30 days of COVID striking, we were able to convert almost all of our programming to remote learning. It was vital for us to keep going and to keep as many of our citizens as possible employed. What we discovered during that time period, though, is that so many of our citizens did not have access to the internet, nor did they have access to the equipment that they needed to be successful. So we've been on a mission since then to expand our digital literacy program for individuals, for small businesses, and we created a Power Technology Center to really focus the community on the need for education and digital literacy.
Thank you so much for that, Judge Hughes. And sorry, Gwyneth, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem at all. I was just taking copious notes. Appreciate it.
And thank you so much for that, Judge Hughes. And we talk about digital literacy, and that's a broad umbrella. So I'd love to hear specifically about some of the programs that you have at OIC and some of the topic areas that you're giving to your participants in order to respond to employers' needs.
The beauty to what we're doing at OIC is the elasticity of the program. We literally have community members who walk in who don't know how to turn a computer on, don't know how to access the internet, don't know how to create an email address. So some classes are literally that basic. Other classes focus on how do you use Adobe effectively, and how do you use Excel spreadsheets. In other words, accessing those tools that elevate your game. The secret to what we do is when you walk through the door, we conduct an assessment of where you are. We meet you where you are. I think that's the power of OIC and why it has lasted for so long, because we don't judge. We meet you where you are, and then we want to understand, well, where do you want to go? What are you trying to achieve? And then we craft our program around you. So, for example, we have a group of citizens right now who have no clue how to use Microsoft 365. But that's what their office is using at work. So they're coming to our program so that we can train them on something that sounds very simple to the two of you, like calendaring. How do you share documents across the internet? But the most important thing I want people to hear is that we're going to customize our services around you so that you get what you need. It's not cookie cutter.
And one of the things I love about that too is not only does that help in the workplace, it's also life skills. At least for the short term right now, it's the way that we connect with others. So probably unbeknownst, intentionally or unintentionally, you've created ways for people to connect with siblings and parents and grandparents that they would have never been able to do before had they not taken your classes.
It's true. It's particularly important as a way to keep families connected. So yes, we've taught Zoom, we've taught Microsoft Teams, you name the platform, we've been playing with it and helping people to understand that this is how we navigate this world, and it's an exciting world. I don't use the term new normal because every day is new. And every day is exciting, and every day is an opportunity for us to be more creative and to be better. And that's what we want for our citizens.
Yeah, I think that's, you touch on new normal. There's a lot of conversation about the return to normal. And I think, right, the reality is that the old normal didn't work for a lot of our citizens. And so, I think I'd be interested, and perhaps it's too early to say, but in this new environment, as we are seeing a lot of resiliency and innovation emerge from COVID, are there things that you are already realizing will carry well beyond this moment in time and that will become kind of your new ways of engaging with citizens, with your young people, with your adults? Is there anything that's kind of beyond this moment that you think will last further?
I think one of the things that will last for a long time, well, actually, there are two things I'd like to call to your attention, is that, number one, I think flexibility. Employers understanding that it's not where my body sits, but it's how my mind is engaged that makes me relevant to the team. And I think that while in the short term, particularly we as women feel like we're being shut out of the workplace because we have to help children deal with the changes in education, school, elementary school. But I think in the long run, we're going to learn that flexibility makes us more effective. So that's one thing. And I think the other thing that will be long lasting is that by blending virtual training and education with in-person, we can have smaller classes. We can reach more people and teach them effectively. And at the end of the day, that's really what we want to do, to ensure that the skills that we offer to citizens really empower them. And by having these smaller in-person classes supplemented by virtual learning, we are more effective.
Yeah, thank you.
And Judge Hughes, I'd love to hear from you around how do you address this sort of confidence gap too? Because I know we talk about the tangible skills of just learning new technology and job skills, but there's also just a piece of like, this is new and that can be intimidating. So how do you help your participants get through of like, you can do this and this is something that's really attainable for you?
So there are two things that I share with them that I think, I hope impacts them. And one of them is literally how I passed the bar examination. I looked around at other people who were lawyers and I said, if they can do this, I can do it too. And that's what I want my citizens to know. Other people have crossed this bridge. They have climbed this mountain. It's not impossible, which is the second thing that I share with them. Impossible is nothing. We are here to have your back. If this is your dream, we can get this done. It's one step at a time. And the road is not always level or straight up. There are ups and downs. But if you hold on to that dream, we'll keep providing you with the skills you need to acquire it, and you'll get there. You'll get there.
That's so good. Yeah, I know we often like to treat it as if it's Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, they will come. But it's so much more active than that, to helping support and engage our citizens and our community members. So I'd love to hear that you have that holistic view.
Yeah, we have to have each other's back, and carry each other forward. I think that's so important.
And I loved how you said it earlier, just meeting your citizens where they are, but also helping to elevate your game. I felt was about spot on for where we are. So as we look forward, right, and we know that digital skills are this critical right now as we're in this virtual environment, and we know we're going to be virtual for a long time to come, and perhaps, like you said, even a blended version. Are there other ways that you think that digital skills are really important to kind of securing jobs? So beyond just kind of the basic communications, but securing jobs?
Well, I think they're absolutely essential, because what we've seen in COVID is a loss of jobs that aren't automated, and that automation train is rolling forward. 69% of all new jobs are going to require some level of technological skill and focus. And so as you think about how you present yourself, you know, one of the things that I learned recently, and I've been giving it a lot of thought to incorporate into our program, is a vehicle for people to practice interviewing via these digital platforms, because it can be intimidating. Like, where do you look? You know, what's the lighting in the room supposed to be? And those sound simple because you guys are in the business of communicating, but for somebody trying to present themselves for an interview, which will very likely be digital, being able to practice that and get constructive feedback is really helpful. So we've been looking at how we incorporate that into our programming, because we used to have people dress up and practice interviewing skills. Now we want them to practice it to a camera. How do you present? How do you show your personality? Convey the value that you're going to bring to an employer. And I just think that's so vital to be able to do that. I've seen some really smart people present badly in this forum because it is challenging. This forum is challenging.
It is. Thank you so much for your time today, and it has been a real pleasure to spend this time together.
Thank you. It's really wonderful to celebrate with Graduate Philadelphia. At OIC, we believe anyone who promotes learning is our friend, and we're happy to be your partner promoting continual life learning.
Okay, Judge Hughes, thank you so much. We really appreciate your insights. I love your quote, you know, being more flexible will make us more efficient and effective. So I think we should hashtag that. So thank you again, Jamil, and thank you, Gwyneth, for letting your personalities come through as we're warming up here. So next on the Ed Talk agenda, we have a gentleman that needs no introduction. Dr. Generals is the president and CEO of the Community College of Philadelphia. CCP is the city's college. Dr. Generals is a big brother. He commands the room. He is just a tremendous, extraordinary leader for the city of Philadelphia, and we are proud to call him friend. We're proud to have a partnership with CCP, and I am excited for you to hear his remarks and for him to have the live Q&A. So without further ado, let me kick it off to my friend and partner, Dr. Guy Generals, President and CEO of the Community College of Philadelphia. Dr. Generals.
Greetings, my name is Dr. Guy Generals, and I am the president of Community College of Philadelphia. Let me begin by congratulating Graduate Philadelphia for 15 years of making dreams come true. I want to also thank them for partnering with Community College of Philadelphia, as together we provide opportunities and pathways for individuals to find their ways into the mainstream of our economy. In conjunction with Graduate Philadelphia, we have also looked at students who, for whatever reasons, have found themselves outside of institutions of higher learning and or K-12 and are looking to get back. So we believe that this partnership has worked well for the city of Philadelphia. As a city of eds and meds, it's increasingly important that we find ways to expand that pipeline, either through earlier opportunities through our dual enrollment and middle college program, and or through partnerships that we have throughout the city. Those opportunities will lead them into the medical profession, in some cases into opportunities to be teachers throughout our school district and beyond, as well in some cases, as is the case with the Wistar Institute, to find ways to be on the front line of research, helping find cures for COVID-19. Economists have pointed out by the year 2025, 60% of all the family sustaining wage jobs will require a post-secondary education. We need to provide opportunities for our students to become more exposed to some of the technologies that are embedded in the STEM fields. As we proceed through the fourth industrial revolution, it's becoming more and more obvious that digital literacy is becoming a mainstay of our work lives and our personal lives, and is fully integrated in almost every industry that you may pursue as a job opportunity. The sciences are changing our lives in ways you can only imagine. The ability of 3D computers is making traditional manufacturing a product of data points and computer programming. The materials that are used to make buildings and airplanes are composites of natural materials that are stronger and conducive to a clean environment. So whether it's automation or machine learning or artificial intelligence, our students will need to be prepared for a future that will judge them as much for the things that they can do as opposed to what they might know. In 3 years, the gap will grow exponentially, and those without skills and knowledge will be left behind. So we must get busy, and we must continue to partner to find opportunities and to strengthen that pipeline for students to find their way back into higher education. Students must have quality teachers and state-of-the-art facilities. Not only are the technologies growing exponentially, but so is the sophistication of the way in which we teach and the equipment used to teach students. The Learning Commons is one area in which students are finding new ways to learn, to work together, and to interact with their peers in such a way that critical learning comes about and they're able to access high-quality materials in order to strengthen their overall arguments as it relates to their classrooms. The Career Advanced Technology Center will provide students with the opportunity to learn and train on the best equipment and with the best teachers. Their education and training will prepare them for the future world of work with careers that provide family-sustaining wages and opportunities for advancement. Students will acquire financial empowerment for themselves, their families, and lead to healthier communities. So, as we prepare for the jobs of the future, it is very important that we provide our students with state-of-the-art facilities, equipment, and teaching and learning strategies. Here we are at the site of our developing Career and Advanced Technology Center in West Philadelphia on the corner of 48th and Market Street. We look forward to the state-of-the-art facilities, and more importantly, we look forward to partnering with Graduate Philly and establishing pipelines into higher education. So once again, congratulations, Graduate Philly. We look forward to continuing our relationship, and we look forward to providing opportunities for the citizens of Philadelphia as they aspire to achieve their dreams.
All right, Dr. Generals. Well, you really took the video production to the next level. So I appreciate the 3D and the 4D, and then you ended with the hard hat. So I really learned a lot, even though I had a chance to see the video beforehand. That was awesome. So thank you so much, Dr. Generals, for, again, just your extraordinary leadership to our city and to our region. I am going to bring back our distinguished guests and event correspondents, Jamil and Gwyneth. I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Hey, thanks again, Malik and Dr. General. Such a pleasure to be able to speak with you and to hear about the work that you have going on at CCP. So I'll start with this, which is a broader question. Obviously, you've been doing a ton of phenomenal work as it relates to job readiness and job training for your students. If you had to call out the one or two things that you are most proud of as far as accomplishments at CCP as it relates to job training, what would you call out?
I think the expansion of our Workforce and Economic Innovations Division that looks at such things as our introduction of some of the advanced manufacturing job training programs that we've provided. I believe the opportunity to work, to be positioned to work with some of the businesses in the industries. For example, we've worked with PICO to introduce a gas pipeline training program. I think those are the types of programs that we hope to be able to deliver in the future. I think our continued relationship with the Delaware Valley Community College Consortium is incredibly important. And as I've tried to demonstrate at the end of that video, our movement towards developing this Career Advanced Tech Center, which I think is unique for Philadelphia. It's something that in my travels around the country, I've seen that community colleges have these types of facilities that enable the citizens of those respective communities to be provided with the quality training in some of the tech fields that are needed for the businesses and the industries of today and tomorrow. So we're really excited about that and the suite of programs that will come along with the development of that particular center.
That's great. And thanks for not letting me box you in, right? So you guys have done a lot of great work. So narrowing it to one or two would not be fair. That's phenomenal.
Great.
Great. And I think just kind of building upon that as we think through the impacts of COVID and how that has really devastated our communities in many ways. At the same time, we're seeing some tremendous innovations coming out of this. And I was hoping maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the specific innovations or solutions that have kind of come out of this crisis and maybe some new ways in approaching the work.
Sure. So like all colleges and universities have had to do, March 13th was the date where our lives changed forever. And we had to adapt to the new environment, and that meant moving everything online for us. So in the process of doing that, we found that we had an opportunity to make to convert some of the faculty and some of the students who up until that point were just not really interested in learning online. So for example, in some of our laboratory science courses, we were able to find faculty who up until that point were very determined that you could not teach biology online. And so because you had to do it, necessity is the mother of invention, they actually did it. And they trained and they found new resources and new research that supported the idea that you could create a virtual environment for the hard sciences. And the same is true with math. We had some math faculty that didn't even want to use the whiteboard up until this point. But when they were confronted with the idea you have to learn and you have to adapt to this new environment, they did that. And so, it was the delivery of instruction, the different pedagogies. There's this belief that it's all about just moving people online and it becomes electronic page turner. Well, it's not. It really is a different pedagogy. It really is a different strategy and approach and delivery of instruction. And so we were able to utilize the time during the summer to really ramp up our training for the faculty, as well as the preparation for the students, many of whom had not taken online courses, to better prepare and to better match the teaching and the learning. And we feel quite comfortable that the focus on quality has really paid off and is paying off now. Going forward in the future, we now know that we can deliver it in an expanded way. I have said that, we have expanded the educational environment beyond the walls of this institution, and that will never go back. And, in somewhat of a flippant way, I've said that, there are no more snow days. We will not have to cancel the college because of a snowstorm or a Super Bowl parade or any of those types of things that we've had to cancel the college for, because we now have the capacity to immediately go online.
Yeah, I think that's certainly proven to be the case. I imagine you're seeing a bit of this not just being this moment in time, but this being kind of the new normal moving forward.
This is absolutely the new normal. It's not just classrooms, it's student support services, it's counseling, it's advising, it's the business aspects that they have to take care of in terms of their tuition and tuition planning. And like other colleges and universities, we've tried to meet the social economic needs that our students were confronted with, because many of them lost their jobs, or many of them were now thrown into, situations where either their parents lost their jobs or there were real hardships in their homes. So we created a fund referred to as the CCP Cares. And over the course of the last 7 or 8 months, we've given away close to $100,000 in just cash for a variety of reasons. Everything from tuition, they couldn't make the tuition bill, to food. We've had a food distribution program going on, to, again, a flat tire, whatever the case may be. If they applied, they can go to ccpcares.edu and they can, within 48 hours, less than 48 hours, they will get a response to whatever their social economic needs are. So we're very proud about that. So we try to meet their educational needs as well as their social and economic needs.
That's extraordinary. Thank you.
That's so great, Dr. General. Although I will say the kid in me cried a little bit when you said no more snow days.
No more snow days. That's it.
So one of the most fascinating things that, from my personal knowledge of CCP, but also through looking at your video, that I heard was this real focus on real world applicable job skills and job training. And we know as the requirement for, post-secondary education increases, still the need for those things to be applicable to real world jobs is only going to increase too. So what advice or perspective would you give those of us who are doing adult learning or workforce development to ensure that that's incorporated in the curriculum ongoing and consistently intertwined there?
Yeah, so, part of what I tried to show in that video is that there's so much of a focus on the STEM fields. You don't necessarily have to want to be in engineering to need to know and have to know and understand some of the basics in math and science in order to get just about any type of job in today's world. And so to the extent that I think this data point was mentioned earlier, that by the year 2025, we need to have roughly 60 to 65% of the jobs to be filled by those with a college education. That number becomes even more exasperated when you point out the fact that the real high-paying jobs, or the jobs that are going to offer a family-sustaining wage, will require some level of math, science, computer knowledge, data literacy, and so forth, all of which I encompass in the broad field of STEM. So it's really important that, the pipeline, whether it's coming from Graduate Philly, or the K-12 system, that there really is an effort to put an emphasis on the importance of the math and science, engineering, technology, computer, digital literacy. And for those of us who are in the educational field, we're not training people to turn widgets. Those types of jobs are probably not going to come back anymore. So even if you have something like welding or advanced manufacturing or mechatronics, there needs to be an element that deals with the science that undergird those particular disciplines and training. And I think that's what we try to do here at the college. Someone that's going into auto technology is not your mom and pop's auto tech garage anymore. Auto tech is really, the auto technology today is really about computers on wheels. So if you have an aversion to that level of technology, you're not going to be successful. And we try to encourage and to move people into an area where they fully understand this.
Yeah, I love how quickly you leaned into this idea of we're training people for the jobs of the future, not hoping that jobs come back that have disappeared.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, just adding to that briefly, you talked a little bit about a relationship that you have with Pico. Are there any other examples of partnerships or conversations you're having with companies to really think about those job placements?
So I may get in trouble. I don't know if it's still embargo, but we are, as we speak, signing a contract with Toyota, which will basically position us as a regional provider for their training throughout the region. As you know, and again, this reinforces the idea, the types of training that they will receive through this contract will not just be specific to Toyota, but it will be general in terms of the auto technology field, as well as the sort of underlying technologies that go into this. And don't forget, that has to do with autonomous vehicles, it has to do with electronic vehicles, and those types of things that students can carry anyway. So we're working with them. We have relationships with just about every healthcare provider in the city and in many areas of the region. And we have some other, we work with an advanced manufacturing consortium, I believe it's referred to, where there are a number of companies that come together to try to bolster advanced manufacturing in this region, and we work with them. And again, we work with the consortium, the Community College Consortium, which is based around the Delaware Valley ports, basically. And so we work with Mako, we work with Drexel, we work with a number of colleges to provide training and training opportunities for the area. So, that's largely what we do in that field of workforce development, is try to partner. We can't do it alone. We have to partner with businesses and industries, and in some cases, we have to partner with other institutions of higher learning.
Yeah, so no shortage of work to be done, and kudos on the Toyota. Even if it's under embargo, that's really exciting. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think we are at our stopping hour, but it has been a true pleasure to spend a little bit of time with you. Thank you for all of your work during this time, and we'll talk again soon.
If it didn't come through on the video, let me restate congratulations to Graduate Philly. They're a really important partner for us, and we're happy to work with them. And a special congratulations to Malik, who's a good friend of mine, and I think he's going to do and is doing wonderful things. So congratulations.
Well said.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you so much, Dr. Generals. I really appreciated learning more about your work with PICO and Toyota, and just really appreciate your leadership when, as you said, March changed our lives forever. And when your shoulder was against the mat, you found a way to be innovative, to be agile, to be nimble, and you're still providing amazing services programs to students who need them most. So thank you so much for your leadership. And Gwyneth and Jamil, thank you so much. I believe this was your third Ed Talk, and we just could not be more thankful for your leadership and for interviewing all of the past three Ed Talk guests. So now, without further ado, I would like to bring up our next very special guest, John Colborn, who is the Chief Operating Officer for JEVS Human Services. John has a very, very special place in the Graduate Philadelphia family. John is actually on our host committee for this event, as well as John is the board chair for the Graduate Network, Inc. And so John has been a friend, he's been a mentor, he's been a huge support to me personally, and we could not be more thankful for John and his leadership to our city and to our region. So you're going to hear from John of JEVS Human Services. John is going to walk through just some of the great innovations that JEVS is doing in the space of education and workforce development and community wraparound services. And he's going to bring them all together in the next segment that you'll see right now. So without further ado, John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Is education just another luxury good? I grew up in a household we euphemistically refer to as comfortable, and it was pretty much just that. A home where we never had to worry about paying for food or putting a roof over our heads. No material need was out of reach. But even though we had money, we didn't have a lot of things. Mom and Dad didn't go in for the second home or the fancy cars, or even a color TV until absurdly late. The six of us shared one bath. And my mom's clothes were strictly JCPenney. My dad wore suits until they were threadbare. The one luxury my parents allowed themselves was the education of their children. And we got some of the best. Music lessons, summer school. My siblings all went to Ivy League colleges. For me, Phillips Exeter Academy and Oberlin College. The youngest in the family, when I graduated from college, my father retired. I think in part because he had no idea what he would do with an income that wasn't going to pay a tuition somewhere. Education fueled our family dinner table conversations. It expanded the horizons of my siblings and for me, and eventually it meant I could play my mother to a draw in Scrabble. After graduating from college, I selected a profession in the social sector, always devoted to expanding economic opportunity in one way or another. I worked in affordable housing, I did community development, I worked on economic development, but through it all, the criticality of skills and education as a driver of family income, of community stability, and of regional economic growth deepened. I saw the barriers in our education system, how the trajectory of inadequate primary and secondary education leads to a life sentence of restricted opportunities, how meritorious admissions policies and our patchwork financial aid system meant that the least prepared rich kids go to college with greater frequency than the best prepared poor kids. And how our education delivery system prevents working adults from accessing continuing education and training to retool for jobs in an ever-shifting economy. And finally, how all these dysfunctions consign individuals, communities, and our country to needless misery and prevent us from realizing the best that we can be. I knew there had to be a better way. That's why I'm talking to you today from Orleans Technical College, the skilled trades training arm of JEVS Human Services. Here we are working to break these cycles of educational dysfunction. The young people and adults who come to Orleans are working to develop the skills that will enable them to enter family-sustaining careers, to start their own businesses, and to become full economic participants in the region's economy. We stretch ourselves to be sure anyone who can benefit from Orleans is afforded a place here. And we know that the magic of a strong educational enterprise isn't just the learning that happens here, it's the connections afforded, which is why we have cultivated an extensive network of employer partners who hire Orleans graduates. And that's why JEVS Human Services has added a partnership with Southern New Hampshire University to its program offerings. Now in its second year, our partnership has enabled over 100 people to take advantage of a self-paced online course of study that is built on mastering competence, not seat time. This means participants can apply what they have learned in school, the workplace, and life to move quickly through concepts and skills they already know and focus on new material. Our coaches are a critical part of the equation. They help students stay on task and actively troubleshoot academic and life challenges, ensuring all of our students achieve their goals. The result? A highly affordable program designed for the complicated schedules of working people. Our graduates are obtaining their associate's and bachelor's degrees, achieving career success without being hampered by the crippling debt that plagues so many college graduates. Whether through our GED programs, skill training, or post-secondary education, JEVS Human Services is committed to expanding economic opportunity broadly in the region. We believe education shouldn't be a luxury good. It should be accessible to all and expand the opportunities for all who seek it. I want to congratulate Graduate Philadelphia on 15 years of service and for its critical work as a partner to JEVS and to post-secondary programs across the region. In this moment, when pandemic and recession have darkened the economic landscape, your work has never been more important.
All right. So thank you so much, John Colborn. Really learned a lot from your video. Love the work that you're doing with Southern New Hampshire University as well as Orleans Technical College. So thank you so much for all that JEVS does for our region. I want to take a moment to next introduce two new event correspondents. We have Phil Fitzgerald, who works for the Philadelphia Foundation, and we have Ashley Putnam, who is with the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. Again, I can't thank these two people enough. When we called them and asked them to be a part of our 15-year celebration, they said a resounding yes, and they have just been amazing, amazing partners over this journey of putting this event together. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Miss Ashley and Phil to tee it up a little bit with Mr. Colborn. Over to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Malik. I'm happy to be here helping you and the Graduate Philadelphia family celebrate. Hi, John and Ashley. Let's jump right in. So John, you started your talk off by asking if education was just another luxury good. What does it mean to think about education as a public good? And what is the call to action to different stakeholders like employers and civic leaders and political leaders in our region?
First off, let me just say, to be sandwiched between Dr. Generals and Dr. Goldrick-Rab is like, I don't know, I'm between two education rock stars and I'm not sure what I'm doing here. But I am so happy to be celebrating Graduate's 15th anniversary. And so not to make this an economics lecture, right? But if you remember Econ 101, a public good is a good where the beneficiaries of the good are constantly expanding at no cost. Which is to say, if we put somebody through community college and they get an associate's degree and they go on to a job and a career and they're supporting their family, there are beneficiaries to that across the region, in fact, across the country. There are employers who benefit from that. There's a tax base that benefits from that. The children of those students benefit from that, and successive generations benefit from that. And unfortunately, the way we have treated higher education in this country has been increasingly to treat it as a private good that individuals are responsible for. Either they have to find the cash to do it, or we put them in debt. That really misses, I think, the larger point here, which is that when we invest in the continuing education of young people and adults, we are building vibrant regional and national economies. And so if you think of the difference between education as a private good and education as a public good, you think of employers leveraging their tuition assistance programs to promote educational advancement for their workers. You think of political leaders who are thinking not about how to balance budgets by cutting higher education and community college budgets, but are expanding access to higher education through free community college, through merit and scholarships for working adults. You think about a philanthropic sector that is supporting the folks in education with the life supports that they need in order to be successful there. And so it just seems to me we have had almost 180 degrees wrong in this country, and the opportunity going forward is to rethink education as a public good and to reorganize the private sector, the public sector, and the civic sector to recognize this and act accordingly.
Great.
Thank you, John. And I was going to say, as the person for the Federal Reserve here, I don't mind talking about economics, and I think but what you're doing is you're reframing our narrative on education and the role that it has. And I want to kind of shift a little bit to thinking about this moment we are in now.
Yeah.
And maybe another narrative we need to talk about, right, which is our narrative on economic growth and economic recovery. And I'm curious, I thought it was really interesting. You highlighted your work that you've done at JEVS, but also your work you've been doing your whole career on thinking about the role of education and skills as an economic driver. And so I'm curious, as you think about the work that we have ahead, what do you think the role that organizations like yours will play in helping this region recover from this current economic moment?
Yeah, and I think, Ashley, you and I were actually on a call, which seems like about 3 years ago, but was probably like 3 months ago, that talked about the recovery and what we foresaw in that. And I think the honest answer is nobody really knows, right? We are in extremely unusual territory. This is a recession truly like no other. It's affecting populations differently. It's affecting industries differently, regions of the country differently, and it's just not clear how this is all going to play out. But I think across economic downturns, no matter what era you're looking at, we know that we come out of those downturns with a different set of job opportunities than we had going into them. Some jobs are destroyed and other jobs are created. And again, almost universally across recessions, what we see coming out of the recession or depression is a different call for skills in labor markets. And so I think our challenge is to do two things. One is to make sure people in this region have the supports they need to get by day. Number two is to support those who want to go back to school and give folks the wherewithal, the opportunity to do that. And we have a lot of structures that support that. And it's really a matter of a little bit of public will and a little bit of money to put those structures to work and enable folks to stay on extended unemployment while they're in school, to use the Keystone scholarships that enable folks who are on public assistance to pursue education. A whole variety of different mechanisms that allow people to pursue education in this new economy. And then third is to think with some deliberateness about the kinds of jobs that are coming back and what is the public infrastructure that's going to support those jobs, whether that's economic development strategies around business attraction, around finance, and around infrastructure investments, or whether that's around organizing our educational enterprises to be supportive of those emerging new industries. And so it seems to me organizations like Graduate Philadelphia and like JEVS and like the Community College of Philadelphia all have roles both as participants in a civic conversation around how Philadelphia organizes itself for recovery, as deliverers of service coming out of that conversation, and as folks who are championing a perspective that not only speaks to a recovery of the region, but speaks to a recovery for those most at risk in the region, and who, especially in this recession, a very unusual recession, what they call the K-shaped recovery, who stand to lose the most if we don't do our recovery right.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you set me up for exactly the follow-up question I was going to ask, which is, you know, I mean, this is a different recession than the last one. This is not a housing-focused recession. We are seeing this recession actively hitting workers, actively hitting frontline workers, actively hitting workers in lower wage jobs, and particularly disproportionately impacting people who don't have four-year college degrees, workers of color, workers who are already low wage and in precarious positions. And I'm just curious, as you think about what Graduate's going to be doing going forward, and what JEVS will be doing in partnership, you know, how do you think about centering those workers in your next steps?
Yeah, so I think, you know, and we heard a little bit from Dr. Caro on this. Part of it is that the education enterprise has to keep up. Dr. General spoke about the pivot that the community college has already taken. So education needs to be delivered in a way that's relevant to working people, which means the expectation that people have to come into a classroom 5 days a week maybe isn't very realistic. And frankly, we have to look at pricing of education too. That we've let the price of education get out of reach of a lot of people, and so part of that is making sure we have affordable options and also making sure we have reasonable financing options for folks who are pursuing education. So I think the education enterprise itself, whether JEVS is running it, whether the community college, Peirce, or others, needs to be relevant to a different population than maybe we thought we were serving before the recession. But the other piece of it is, honestly, it's a political conversation. It's a matter of setting the priorities in Harrisburg and Washington and City Hall to make sure that there are resources available to help people pursue education, support people in the life challenges that they face as they're pursuing that education so they can succeed. You know, I know Sara will talk about the challenges that folks have in terms of housing insecurity and food insecurity. We see that in our students at Orleans Technical College. And so it's not just a matter of handling the tuition, it's also making sure that folks have the supports. And then finally, it's about engaging our employer partners in this work, because at the end of the day, if we want to have educational opportunities that are relevant in the economy, we need to have the connection to employers. So we're making sure that folks have the skills they need to succeed in these future jobs.
True. Thank you so much, John. That's all the time we have. And we really appreciate everything you and your team over at JEVS does. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining me.
Okay, Mr. John Colborn, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us this afternoon. I have to say that I have nightmares now because I was an econ major, thinking back to 1996, and you certainly brought me back to Econ 101, and I'm going to try not to think about that too much. So, but thank you, John, for really making the connection for us between, as you said, the education enterprise and economic development. Oftentimes, we sort of have these bifurcated conversations where education is in one bucket, you know, workforce development is in another, and then economic development is in a separate bucket. And I really appreciate your comments that really sort of ties sort of business attraction to the city of Philadelphia or public investments in public infrastructure, and really tying that to as you said, the higher education enterprise. So thank you for that thoughtful insight. Next, I want to introduce Dr. Sara Goldrick-Rab. We are so honored. We're so thrilled to have Dr. Rab. She is a national treasure. She has really shined a spotlight on issues that both traditional and non-traditional college students face when it comes to food insecurity and housing insecurity, and just many of the barriers that are present as students attempt to persist to get a college degree. We're thrilled that she's here with us. And without further ado, I am going to turn it over to our new friend, Dr. Sara Goldrick-Rab. Please help me welcome her.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sara Goldrick-Rab with the Hope Center for College, Community, and Justice in the Lewis Katz School of Medicine at Temple University. And I'm really happy to be able to join you here today as part of Graduate Philadelphia's wonderful event. I want to talk about the importance of changing the dinner table conversation about what college means in 2020. These days, healthy communities and financially empowered adults need some education beyond high school. Times have changed. Our labor market has changed, but so has our need for really deeply engaged civic participation. I think we all feel that quite acutely at this moment. We also know that the education that we get in elementary and secondary school is great, but it isn't enough. And it's very differentially allocated. It's inequitable. It makes sense that 100 years after we made high school free, we're going to need to do more and push further. But I can tell you from lots of research that my team has done over almost 20 years, that if we're going to be able to help people succeed in higher education, we're going to have to start talking about students as human beings first. Frankly, we're going to have to talk about their teachers and their staff members that way as well. When I say that students are humans first, what that means is that they start by needing to have their basic needs met. We can't assume that just because a person is enrolled in college that they have a safe and stable home to live in. We cannot assume that just because they've gone to college, they have something to eat every day. We cannot assume that just because someone is 18 years old, their mom and dad is helping them pay for school, regardless of whether or not they're filed as dependent on their taxes. We have to start by securing their basic needs. Students are dropping out of college all over our city because we've neglected that really important lesson. They transition out of, maybe it's the school district into post-secondary education, or maybe it's out of the workforce. They might be coming to college because they know that they have to skill up in order to be able to feed their kids. When they arrive in our classrooms, and we try so hard to teach them, if we don't pay attention to them as human beings, they don't succeed. Students are dropping out these days over as little as $200. They're dropping out not because they lack talent, or they're not working hard enough, or even because they are financially illiterate. They just don't have enough dollars to put together to make ends meet. So as we center students as humans first and begin to address their basic needs, we have to use tools that are sometimes a little beyond what we thought colleges and universities were going to be doing. If we're going to increase college attainment in Philadelphia, then we need our community-based organizations and our social service agencies and our employers to look at our institutions of higher education differently. We cannot just look at employers, for example, as people who hire our graduates. They have to help make our graduates. They have to offer good and flexible employment that pays a living wage so that students can actually balance work and school and get to the degree. We need to ensure that if people are going to need affordable housing while they're in college, they can get it. But we have a system in place that often puts college students at the bottom of the prioritization when resources are scarce, instead of seeing them as really good bets that can help them get to degree completion. And we continue to rely on a really antiquated version of financial aid. We're just using things like the FAFSA and the federal Pell Grant, which is a good start, but it's not nearly enough. Access to things like public benefits programs, including the Earned Income Tax Credit, the Unemployment Insurance Program, and the SNAP program, otherwise known as food stamps. These are ways to help students make ends meet, and they must be leveraged by our campuses. In addition, we have to put a much more robust emergency aid program into place. We need one, frankly, that's citywide. And it needs to send the message that if you are thinking of not starting college because you're short $200, we want to get that money to you. If you're thinking of leaving over $200, we want to get that money to you. It is far more effective and cost effective to keep you enrolled in school. This all requires a mindset, and it's one that Graduate Philadelphia has been played a very important role in helping to create. I am confident that we can work together in a movement that my team calls Real College Philadelphia. It's time to stop being polite and start getting real and collaborate together to get all people access to the education that they need in order to thrive. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you, and I invite you to explore our website at hope4college.com so you can learn more about what we're doing and find ways that we can partner together. I appreciate you.
Okay, we're back. So thank you, Dr. Sara Goldrick-Rab. We just really appreciate your extraordinary leadership. We know that your impact extends well beyond Philadelphia. We know that you have a national presence and national impact, and we just really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us this afternoon. So we are going to bring back Phil Fitzgerald and Ashley Putnam. And if you guys do not know Phil and Ashley, you really do need to reach out to them on LinkedIn. They are doing some amazing work in our region around social and economic mobility. And I would just encourage you to reach out to these amazing event correspondents. So without further ado, Ashley, Phil, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Malik. And also an amazing leader who I didn't get to give a shout out to earlier, but we're just so happy. I know I speak for me and Phil both to be here and celebrating Graduate Philadelphia. And really excited to be with you, Dr. Sara. This is awesome. I long since admired your work and your research and the way it really centers equity in terms of access to education. We know from data that college students are increasingly working learners. They're also working parents that are also going to school. They're balancing a lot more things than just college. What really always strikes me in the work you do is all of the other supports that we don't often talk about that go along with college and with school. And I'm curious, as we were just talking about recovery, in the wake of COVID-19, do you feel like this has highlighted some of those needs that students have that are outside of just in the classroom on a regular basis?
Yeah, well, it's great to be here with both you and Phil, and I appreciate the question. Yes, certainly it has highlighted the fact that students need, affordable food and housing and transportation and internet access and healthcare and all of these sorts of things if they're going to succeed in college. It's been unfortunate that, frankly, we needed a pandemic to highlight some of those things, although at least in Philadelphia, that conversation was already underway. The other thing is that the pandemic has just made that all that more complex. Right. So, for example, one of the main ways that students make ends meet during school, whether they're 18 or they're 35, is that they work during college. It's incredibly common. Over 70% of college students were working before the pandemic, and many of those who were not working were trying to find work. And with the pandemic, of course, we see two things. There's widespread unemployment and loss of jobs that were being used in order to help pay for school. And we have students who are essential workers who are now experiencing threats to their health and well-being because they need to keep those jobs just in order to stay in school and to feed their families. So that part of their, the way they're making ends meet is falling apart. And to be honest, the social safety net, which was already not in great shape for them, has pointed out over and over again during the pandemic how much it doesn't seem to care about whether they can stay in school. So we saw these stimulus payments, for example, come out, and students under 24 years old were deemed, not eligible for these based on the assumption that their parents would give them money that went to them and then support their child. That neglects so many things, including that the parents really needed the money in order to make their own ends meet, and that we have so many students who have been adultified from such a young age, including, throughout our city. They've been helping their parents pay the bills. They're not getting money from their parents in some sort of allowance way here. And so they didn't get those payments. And then you look at something like SNAP. There's a work requirement associated with SNAP for people without children, and it's been suspended for some adults, but not for college students. So it just keeps on sending exactly the wrong message, that even though they did everything right and they got out of high school and they enrolled in college, that we don't seem like we care very much about whether or not they succeed.
Yeah, it's something popped up on the screen, sorry. Yeah, it's very true what you just said. And I want to go back to what you mentioned in the video about making people, centering humans, right? And helping institutions and employers think about their humanity of their employees and the students. And so I'm curious, what conversations have you had or partnerships are you developing to help employers and other institutions think about students and employees as humans first?
Yeah, well, this is a big challenge. It's just so far from what they thought, higher education was going to be like, or what they even think it is today. And unfortunately, one of the challenges, they think about their own experience in college, which was often a successful experience. And we also know for many of those who were in charge of the big, resources, in charge of many of our businesses, they experienced higher education as a white male. Let's be really honest, that's not predominantly who I'm talking about here in Philadelphia higher education who's struggling at this moment. So, our Real College Philadelphia initiative, with the support of the Lenfest Foundation, has allowed us to begin to try to bridge these gaps with potential partners, and to try to do that in a different way than other organizations have attempted in the past. The private sector is probably the place where we have the furthest to go. There are alignments here. I hope that should be very clear from the things that I said. I mean, everybody wins when these folks not only start college and graduate, and we've got plenty of employers here who say they want a more diverse workforce. This is how you get it. We're not even giving the students a chance to declare a major. They're failing out in their first semester because they don't have enough food to eat. So, part of that is still getting on the same page about the reality of what's actually happening and looking at data. I'm really happy to say that 11 colleges and universities across this city have now allowed us to collect data on their campuses so that we can really share that out and use evidence to drive a conversation. And in addition, we've begun hosting a number of meetings, giving people a chance to get in the room together and hear about innovative partnerships that, for example, that come from other parts of the country where we're making progress and where we might be able to borrow some of those ideas here in Philadelphia. One of the things that I really hope can happen is a conversation with those who have private housing. Nobody wins when off-campus housing, or just consider it people with city housing, have vacancies. Nobody wants vacancies. So if somebody I've worked with people in Dallas, for example, they say, all right, well, if I've got vacancies, why don't I turn to my local institution and allocate them maybe 2 or 3 apartments and say, why don't you, choose the students? We want to support college attainment at your institution by allocating those spaces to you. And those are win-wins. These students are amazing. What they go through, they get out, they are resilient, and they're willing to pay it forward. And I think that's exactly what we need.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really think one of the things that's most powerful to me about your talk is that it's also really shifting our narratives around what is student success, and who are students, right? Because again, the data show that students are not, I think our assumptions and our policies are that students are people who are relatively doing better and, they'll be fine and mom and dad are looking out for them. And what you're finding is what we found in some of our Fed studies, people are not able to pay an emergency expense of $300 or $400. I'm curious if you can talk a little more about how you do that with the Go College program, and what do you think the policy implications are, especially for some of the benefit programs you talked about in what you're discovering?
Yeah, well, emergency aid, I just have to triple underline here, is something that makes so much sense. I know you know, as an economist, the world over, we have found that this is an effective thing to do. It's very clear that there is need. And yet, you know, while a lot of our institutions, including Dr. General's own institution, right, and my institution at Temple, we have emergency funds. But it's not just about having emergency funds. It's about how we deliver them to people. We cannot shame someone, making them perform their poverty or making them wait while they get an application in and navigate a bureaucratic process in order to get that support. The way to make that $200 or that $500 effective is to take their needs seriously, evaluate their conditions, and get them the support as quickly as possible so that we can keep the emergency from, frankly, becoming a catastrophe. And there are ways to do that. I've been excited over the last few years. I took some of the work that I've done in terms of research, and I worked that into a nonprofit that I created called Believe in Students. Believe in Students is now doing a variety of types of emergency aid, both cash grants to students, as well as this new effort around food here in the city called Gather, a pop-up that we are working on with Little Giant Creative and the Hope Center. And that's another way of trying to get students some emergency food support. In addition, I work with a company called Equity in New York, which is asking this question: do we really need to burden staff with all of these difficult decisions? Couldn't we just use evidence to make decisions about allocation and then deliver through technology support quickly? In other words, if you're going through a lot and you're up at night at 3 o'clock in the morning, do you really have to wait till the office opens at 10 a.m. to submit your application, or could you just apply in an app and get that cash the very next day? The answer is it is possible. And is it impactful? Well, the Hope Center is evaluating that so we can figure out what we need to know, to move forward. Policy, look, the CARES Act had $6 billion in it for emergency aid in the first time in federal history. And the students did not go out and buy a bunch of flat screen TVs. They ate, they stayed in school. And these declines in enrollment that we're seeing right now would have been far worse without it. The question is, going forward, and I know we have an election that will help decide this question, is the next stimulus going to include a meaningful package of support, including emergency aid for students? The Hope Center is hoping so, and we have a sign-on letter. Organizations can try to put that out there. There's a lot that's going to have to change, and policymakers are going to have to get involved. Philanthropy cannot do this alone.
Thank you.
Indeed. Yeah, thank you so much for that. And as always, and as someone who works in philanthropy, the answers always lie in the intersection of innovation and collaboration. So thank you for that.
And also congratulations on the new addition to the family. I know there's a dog there in the background who was joining us. So
it's always good to have hope. And I think wherever you can find it, whether it's with a pet or some get out the vote work, whatever you all have to do right now, celebrating, an organization like Graduate Philadelphia, we believe in the science of hope and optimism to make progress for our students.
Thank you so much. And congratulations again to our colleagues at Graduate Philadelphia on just your incredible work. I know we're all just honored to be your continued partners. And thank you, Dr. Sara, for joining us.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Sara Goldrick-Rab. What a powerful dialogue with Ashley and Phil. So thank you again. One key takeaway for me, and I sort of connected back to something that Dr. Caro said, when she was talking about redefining and re-envisioning and reimagining higher education, is that we have to make sure that we are being very much customer focused and putting the student at the center of our new design, right? And making sure that we understand the barriers and the challenge of adult learning, whether they're traditional or non-traditional students, and making sure that we're putting some of those supplemental services in place so that these students can persist, they can be retained, and they can meet the finish line. So again, Dr. Sara, thank you so much for your leadership. And again, Ashley, Phil, we couldn't be more thankful for your contributions to today's program. So that is going to wrap up our Ed Talk segments. And again, we thank all of our panelists. We thank all of our Ed Talks guests, and we thank our event correspondents for being with us today. So I am just feeling really, really full and inspired. As you can see, we've had a number of key stakeholders and partners that really went out their way to make this celebration a success. There have been companies, there are funders, there are community-based partners. We have a number of viewers that are tweeting and posting, and we just can't be more grateful and more thankful for all the support that we are getting today. Next, we want to take a moment to thank some others who also have been a really, really important part of this journey and important part of our work. We have 3 honorees that we want to acknowledge and shine a spotlight on. First, I want to shine a big spotlight on Independence Blue Cross, and particularly thank Jeanie Heffernan, who is on our board and on our host committee. IBC represents our signature employer partnership in which we provide coaching and advising and career services, as well as integrating the work of degree attainment to their overall kind of talent management strategy and diversity and inclusion. We also want to thank the Lumina Foundation. The Lumina is a national funder, a national leader, really driving educational attainment rates throughout the country. And we want to thank particularly Dakota and Sara Lundquist. And lastly, but not least, we want to thank the City of Philadelphia Department of Commerce, particularly Heloise Jettison and Sylvie Gallier-Howard, and former Commerce Director Harold Epps. We just really, really appreciate a 10-year relationship that we had with the City of Philadelphia, and we cannot be more thankful and not be more grateful. With that said, we're going to see a few short videos that brings all of this together.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeanie Heffernan, and I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer for Independence Health Group. I am thrilled to be here this afternoon and accept this recognition on behalf of Graduate. We've had a long-term relationship that goes all the way back to 2011. Since that time, over 1,100 of our Independence associates have taken advantage of this wonderful benefit that we are thrilled to offer to our associates. This partnership has really allowed us to supplement other benefits that we have for our associates, but this one in particular really helps our associate overcome the barriers, issues, concerns, and worries about achieving their academic goals and aspirations. Over 90 of our associates currently are working with Graduate to get to their goals. I'm thrilled to be accepting this award. I'm also honored of the fact that I'm on the board of Graduate and the Advisory Council. I've been on that since 2014. And am just thrilled with the mission that Graduate is trying to tackle. Congratulations on your 15-year anniversary, and keep up the great work. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Hello everyone, my name is Dakota Palicki, and on behalf of Lumina Foundation, I'd like to extend our hearty congratulations to the team at Graduate Philadelphia. Lumina is proud to support Graduate's work to improve the education ecosystem in Philadelphia, leading many adults in the area to greater social and economic mobility. Getting partners from the public, private, and social sectors to work collaboratively towards common goals, share resources, share data, and share credit for success is no easy feat. And yet, for 15 years, Graduate Philadelphia has been doing just that. And doing it so well, Lumina and our partners at the Kresge Foundation designated this partnership as a talent hub, shining national attention on your collective success. As our nation starts its long journey of recovery, partnerships like Graduate Philadelphia will play a critical role in supporting thousands of adults who need a pathway to success. Lumina is fortunate to work with such dedicated partners and staff, and looks forward to continuing our partnership for years to come.
Hello, my name is Sylvie Gallier Howard, and I'm the Acting Director of Commerce for the City of Philadelphia. On behalf of the City of Philadelphia, congratulations to Graduate Philadelphia for 15 incredible years building economic opportunity here in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. We take great pride that our city is the flagship location for the graduate network of cities. All over the country, but especially in Philadelphia, the graduate mission is so critical, and it aligns with the city's mission as we aim to increase the number of adults completing college. The important hard work that you do day in and day out, engaging business, higher education, government, labor, community organizations, and more, demonstrates the commitment that Graduate has in removing barriers and creating new pathways for adults to complete college degrees that are needed to succeed in the economy of today and tomorrow. And by targeting your focus to help adults who have some college credits, but no degree, the comebackers, as you rightly say, your impact is immeasurable, not only on those that you directly support, but also on the economic health of our city as a whole. I'm proud of the collaboration between the city's Department of Commerce through our business development unit and our workforce development team as we work strategically together with the Graduate Network to provide talent pipeline development for businesses in Philadelphia and for the businesses we look to attract to Philadelphia in the future. Under the current leadership of Malik Brown, your organization has continued to pivot and respond and provide real-time services, advice, and support to comebackers in the midst of this pandemic. I commend you and your organization for your achievements and look forward to our continued partnership into the future. Thank you and congratulations. All the best.
Congratulations, Graduate Philadelphia, on 15 years of high-quality leadership, support, and services that have immensely benefited the City of Philadelphia, and even more importantly, benefited the Philadelphia residents who want to return to finish their college degree. Now more than ever, Graduate Philadelphia has continued to be a leader and an example of a deeply committed organization that has been in Philadelphia since 2005 and has served as the flagship graduate network site since then. I have had the pleasure of working with the Graduate Philadelphia leadership and its advisory board for the past 4 years, and the team has moved, adapted, and pivoted in response to our current unprecedented challenges while still remaining on mission. They've engaged the best partners, collaborated, strategized with higher education community, and focused their objectives with clear expectations and mandates of excellence. This has resulted in a strong advisory board and a strong corporate board, and has captured the interest and investment of corporate institutions, colleges and universities, and private industry. Before and in the midst of this intense and challenging pandemic, Graduate Philadelphia has been a true leader in their work. In furtherance of all that direct work, this organization has also exponentially increased the number of adults in Philadelphia and beyond with a college degree. That was their mission. And here we are today, 15 years later, rewarding you and celebrating you for your unwavering contributions to Philadelphia. Our comebacker community has benefited exponentially, and in turn, the City of Philadelphia has benefited from your work, as have our business partners and our community partners to no end. So I'm happy to say, with a heartfelt and heart-full-bodied congratulations, you have done a tremendous amount of work. So proud to have you as a partner in the City of Philadelphia, and I look forward to working together with you as we forge ahead for our common goal to make sure that we dedicate our time and our resources to educating the residents of Philadelphia. Again, congratulations.
Hi. On behalf of Comcast, it has been such a pleasure to be here today to celebrate the critically important work of Graduate Philadelphia. Advancing digital equity has been core to our company's DNA for more than a decade, and it's an issue we deepened our commitment to this year. This work feels especially urgent against the backdrop of a pandemic that has pushed economic and educational opportunities further out of reach for too many. Graduate Philadelphia not only joins us in a deep commitment to equity, they share the sense of urgency we have to create pathways to opportunity. The work they are doing to help more people gain the skills and credentials needed to succeed in the digital world is just the kind of work we like to support. We are pleased to honor Graduate Philadelphia and mark their incredible achievements over 15 years. We welcome the dynamic leadership of Malik Brown, and we look forward to all of the good work ahead. It is now my pleasure to introduce Rob Wonderling, President and CEO of the Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce.
Well, good afternoon. It really is an honor and a pleasure to spend some time with you this afternoon. And congratulations to Malik Brown and Hadass and the entire Graduate Philadelphia team on 15 years. It's more than a celebration. I think this event is a roadmap for not just the future of Graduate Philadelphia, but the city of Philadelphia as well. And we're glad to be partners with Graduate Philadelphia, and particularly as we work on the Philadelphia Regional Recharge and Recovery Plan, which is a true public-private partnership that began last spring, and we've been actively working over the last several months, and will need to do so in a high level of collaboration in the years ahead. In one fell swoop, our city and our region lost about 8.1% of gross domestic product, and we have either placed over 735,000 citizens on the unemployment rolls, or have left them in very vulnerable positions and potential subject to future layoffs. So that's the challenge, but the opportunity is to play our cards expertly and to work collaboratively so that one day in our future, you'll be able to say about our fair city and our region that we are a national model for apprenticeship and training the jobs of the future. That we look at everything through the lens of inclusive growth and equity, and that we end systematic racism as part of the economy and the free enterprise system in the city of Philadelphia. That we make concerted efforts to support our micro and small business communities, and particularly Black and Brown enterprises. That we as a city and citizens are very healthy, and we live in a very healthy and free virus community, and that we are very literate. Not only can we read and write, but our digital literacy is off the charts in an increasingly digitally interconnected world. These are not just aspirations, they support the recommendations of the Philadelphia Regional Recharge and Recovery Initiative, that engaged the governments of Pennsylvania, our surrounding counties, and of course our city of Philadelphia, along with 130 business and civic leaders. It's an active plan that has over 25 recommendations, everything from building out the infrastructure necessary to provide testing and vaccinations, to making very concerted investments by the private sector to support the creation of Black and Brown enterprises, and to support many, many employment opportunities through such partnerships of Graduate Philadelphia. So we need your help. We hope you'll collaborate with us after today. If you're interested in joining the Recharge and Recovery Initiative, drop me a note, send me an email, drop me a line, and we'd love to get you involved. Our future does really depend on it.
Okay, so Rob, thank you so much. We really appreciate your contributions to today's program. If you're not familiar with the Recharge and Recovery Task Force and efforts, I would encourage everyone to go on the Chamber's website and to read a little bit more about this incredible work that's bringing together a cross-section of leaders to really be a part of our recovery efforts. And if you actually look on our host committee and look at the number of individuals, our Ed Talk speakers, I think we have at least 8 or 9 people that participated today that are a part of the Chamber's recharge and recovery efforts. So we look forward to continuing that partnership with the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce. I want to give a really quick second and third thank you to Gwyneth just for your extraordinary contributions to today's event. As an event correspondent, as a sponsor, as a partner for Graduate Philadelphia, we can't say thank you enough. I would be remiss if I did not also say thank you to Delilah Wilson Scott. We just really, really appreciate your support of our work. So let me move on and also take this opportunity to thank one of our leading sponsors, TD Bank, specifically Dominique Gauze, Aaron Corbett-Wright, and Arlene Bonnet. We are extremely grateful for TD's sponsorship, and we look forward to building out a relationship that certainly aligns with Graduate Philadelphia's mission and the work of the TD Bank Ready Challenge. We also want to take a moment to honor some of our adult comebackers, honor their voices, their experience, and some of our other stakeholders that are really helping us lift our work and helping us write the next iteration and the next chapter of our work. Throughout this process, as I was working with the amazing Witty Gritty team, we really wanted this day to be a celebration. And we know against the backdrop, there's a bit of we have the civil unrest, we had the death of Mr. Wallace last night, but we really wanted to take this day for it to be a real celebration and to honor the grit and determination and the persistence of our adults who work during the day and go to school in the evening. Again, you can, as you've seen, you can text to give information that's scrolling at the bottom of your program. If you're able to, please consider making a financial donation to support our work. For the next segment of our program, this is what we're calling our roll call. This is our tribute, if you will, our salute to the adults that work on the front lines every day, do incredible work, don't complain, and find a way to take classes in the evening at one of the many great institutions that you heard from earlier. Here are some voices from the communities that we serve. Here's our roll call.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erin Corbett-Wright, and I am the TD Charitable Foundation Program Manager. Today, I would like to send a huge congratulations and my warmest of well wishes to Malik and the entire Graduate Philadelphia family for celebrating their 15th anniversary. TD supports Graduate Philadelphia because their work is critical to our city. But further, TD is committed to supporting this Black-led institution as a result of historical biases. Understanding the racial paradigms within philanthropy, we consider Graduate Philadelphia to be balancing the scales for our neighbors who are eager to be in the workforce. Graduate Philadelphia not only provides workforce development to those in need of employment, but provides the resources critical for a path toward financial security, a key driver of change aligned to the TD Ready commitment. Programming at Graduate Philadelphia connects prospective employees to job opportunities offering sustainable wages and career advancement reflective of the rapidly changing workplace. As I conclude, TD Bank would like to again congratulate Graduate Philadelphia on its 15th anniversary. This milestone is a testament to the ongoing fulfillment of Graduate Philadelphia's vision, that every adult who aspires to earn a college degree have access to the resources and supports they need to both start and complete a college degree. TD Bank is proud to be a partner in this work. Congratulations again.
Hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Huggins Purifoy, and I am a comebacker. I am a student at Peirce College. I started in 2018 at the age of 66, and now I'm looking forward to graduating in 22 with a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership. It's been a fun ride and very interesting. Graduate Philadelphia has been wonderful, a wonderful resource. And I thank you guys so much for all that you do. Congratulations on 15 years.
Hi, I'm Councilmember at Large Derek Green, and I want to congratulate Graduate Philadelphia on 15 years of success in helping adults finish a college degree in the greater Philadelphia region. When you think about the city of Philadelphia having a 26% poverty rate, anything we do that can help people to earn more income will help grow our city and also help grow our region. And the fact that Graduate Philadelphia was one of the first programs in the nation to pull resources together from a regional perspective to help adults finish and earn a college degree is so important. So I want to congratulate you on 15 years of success. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and thank you for helping us to address the poverty rate in our city and in our region by helping more adults be able to get a college degree, which will help them to bring more income into their households and help us reduce poverty in the city of Philadelphia and throughout this region. Congratulations, Graduate Philadelphia, on 15 years of outstanding success.
Hi, I'm Diana Dyer, and I'm a comebacker with Graduate Philadelphia. I just go to Chestnut Hill College. I am studying human services, working on my Bachelor of Science degree in human services with the School of Continuing Education and Professional Studies. I heard about Graduate Philadelphia on the radio. It was a PA service ad, so I decided to check them out. I went and I checked them out. I filled out a little form online, and I was connected right away with my specialist, Denise Whitaker, and now I am waiting to graduate. I am a senior. And I'm also a senior in my career. I will be retiring soon. I will be of retirement age, so I have the option, and I'm just looking forward to retiring so that I can start a new life in human services, helping others. I'd like to congratulate Graduate Philadelphia on their 15th anniversary, and I hope that you have 15 more years of helping other people like me going back to school. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Nestler. I'm the Chief Communications and Strategy Officer with the Public Health Management Corporation. On behalf of PHMC, I congratulate Malik Brown, Executive Director of Graduate Philadelphia, and the whole Graduate Philadelphia team on their 15-year celebration anniversary event. I'm a proud host committee member for today's event, and I'm also a proud board member for Graduate Philadelphia. At PHMC, we see a strong connection between workforce development, continuing education, and economic mobility as it relates to someone's health, well-being, and feeling of stability, engagement, and involvement in their community. We're proud to partner with Graduate Philadelphia and wish them the best of luck in the future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Betty Smith. I'm here to talk about my journey back to school. I learned about Graduate Philadelphia in 2016 or maybe 17, and I met Mr. Anthony Johnson, and I didn't know it would be so easy. They helped made the process of getting back in school so easy, and I went back to school and I earned my degree at CCP. I earned my degree May of this year, 2020, and I'm so happy that I ran in touch with this agency. Fear kept me from going back to school all these many years, but now I have my degree in criminal justice. I plan on going to school once Corona is over, and I'm planning on going to local politics, maybe be a liaison between city council or my representative, and I'm very appreciative of Graduate Philadelphia, and congratulations, Graduate Philadelphia, for 15 years of success. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pat Eiding. I am the president of the Philadelphia Central Labor Council of the AFL-CIO. I'm also board chair for Graduate Philadelphia, the organization. I serve on many boards throughout the region, and being a graduate through all these years has been one of my favorites. Malik and I, along with board member Jeanie Heffernan from IBC Blue Cross, and Rebecca Formel from the Lenfest Institute for Journalism, believe that Graduate will have a tremendous impact on those workers who, because of pandemic, will need help to reestablish themselves in the mainstream of employment. Our new president, Malik Brown, is an enthusiastic young man who brings energy, intellect, and strong value for caring what happens to low and moderate income adults, folks that need education and skills to compete in today's economy. I want to thank Hadass Sheffer, the co-founder and former executive of Graduate Philadelphia way back in 2005. We would not have this opportunity as the graduate organization if not for Hadass and for leaders like Sallie Glickman, who as Director of Workforce created the idea of Graduate along with David Thornburg. And of course, this great event would not have been possible today without the hard work and leadership of Malik and his fantastic host committee. I want to make a big thanks to the many sponsors and supporters that made this celebration a huge success. Thank you very much. Now it is my pleasure to introduce two of my favorite people to talk about the future of Graduate Philadelphia. Charmaine Matlock-Turner and Malik Brown. Charmaine Matlock-Turner is President and CEO of the Urban Affairs Coalition, which unites government, business, neighborhoods, and individual initiative to improve the quality of life in the region, build wealth in urban communities, and to solve emergent issues. When Charmaine joined UAC 21 years ago, she earned the distinction of being the first woman to lead the organization. And she has continued to earn distinctions for her leadership and impact in the community ever since. Governor Tom Wolf appointed Charmaine to serve on the Pennsylvania Redistricting Reform Commission and Census 2020 Complete Count Commission. Mayor Jim Kenney selected her to chair a special committee on poverty reduction and prevention overseeing the Philadelphia Poverty Action Plan. Her extensive board memberships includes Peirce College Board of Trustees, the Regional Federal Reserve Bank, the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce, and Children's Scholarships Fund of Philadelphia, just to name a few. Charmaine is the recipient of numerous awards, including the Philadelphia Business Journal's Most Admired CEO Award, and she's a star commentator on Channel 6 ABC Inside Story. Malik Brown is the president of the new Graduate Philadelphia organization. Malik is smart, politely aggressive, and truly cares about the future of young adults who need help to achieve their career or next career, and is dedicated to the success of Graduate Philadelphia. If you haven't met Malik, it's only because he hasn't gotten to you yet. Believe me, he will. As a board chair, I enjoy hearing from folks who have met him and his professional and friendly approach. I also know that Charmaine has had a great influence on his success in his introduction as president of Graduate Philadelphia. Malik Brown and Charmaine Turner, you're on.
Hi, Malik. How you doing, man?
Hey, Charmaine. How are you?
Good, good. You almost made it through the whole program without having to talk to me.
we saved the best for last, Charmaine.
No, it's always a pleasure. Just congratulations for everything that you've done, and you know that I am a huge fan. So I'm excited to be a part of your 15-year celebration today, and I get a chance to sort of share with other people how we usually talk to each other, like what's really happening, man, what's going on.
Right. We can now have I can put the script down, I can just have a conversation.
I know, but let's start with a little bit about you. We've been sharing some really great stories about a lot of other people, and first I have to say hi to Pat Eiding, who's absolutely fabulous, who's also on my board, who is a fabulous leader in Philadelphia. So Pat, thank you so very, very much for everything that you do and for being a great support for Malik. We talked about that early on as he was making his transition into this role. So thank you very, very much. But Malik, tell us a little bit about who you are. I mean, you're a first generation college student like me, though you're a little bit younger. So tell us a little bit about who you are and how did you get this bug, or how did you get the interest or believe that you could go to college?
Sure. So first, Charmaine, let me just say thank you for being here. We don't take this lightly. We know that you are extremely busy. Pat just ran down your bio, so we know that you're on a number of different boards and important initiatives. And you could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here. So a heart of gratitude, a heartfelt thank you to you for being here. So a little bit about me, Charmaine, how I got involved, what brought me to this place. You mentioned that I am a first generation college student. My mother and father grew up in Philadelphia. They went to Simon Gratz and Germantown High School, respectively. And they did not go to college. But the one thing growing up in a single parent home with my mother, she made sure that all three of her children went to school. There was no wavering. There was no other option. We knew at a very young age that my mother wanted us to go to college. And for me, it was really a coming of age story where I went to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts. I met, lifelong friends. I met my wife there. But for me, I remember, the summer of 1996 before I went to school. And I was sitting down with a friend of mine who went to University of Pittsburgh and his father has recently deceased. But I remember his father saying to us that, oh, now that you're going to college, you made it, right? And I remember thinking as a young 17-year-old, yes, I've made it. And when I got to school and got my first internship and got involved in student government and just started to grow and mature as a human being, I realized that there was a whole lot more than just being accepting to making it, right? I remember, being laid off from my first job and struggling to pay the bills and your first job.
I know that feeling.
And so I think for me, I like to say that, we like to use that term that education is society's great equalizer, Charmaine. But I think for me, I've come to learn that, there's an and to that. Right? That education is a great start. It's a great launch pad. It's a great foundation. But that we have to wrap that with sponsorship and mentorship and jobs and opportunity so that we can live out our best selves, that we can achieve our highest aspirations. And certainly education is a core foundation, to that. So that for me was, an aha moment as I kind of transitioned from working in higher ed, working in philanthropy, working in business.
So that's what I was going to say. Hold on a second, because that's the other thing I want people to know. So you go to college, you get a degree, and you realize that you're just starting a new road, right? That you got to that road, now you start a new road. And different than a lot of other people, again, this is where I think we sort of saw our backgrounds as being so similar. You got a chance to work in different spaces. So especially as a person of color, a lot of times, maybe if we went to school for education, we stayed in education. Or if we went to school for social work, we stayed in social work. But you got a chance to work in the for-profit sector, the nonprofit sector, in philanthropy. All of these different spaces where you met different people and had different experiences. How did that experience kind of inform your worldview? What did that sort of teach you about what the world is and how you operate in it?
Sure. So thank you so much for the question, Charmaine. My first job out of my MBA program was as a public accountant. I was in Boston and I was an auditor. I went to school, I had majored in finance, and I thought that I wanted to be in the accounting space. And I soon learned that that was not the career for me. And so I transitioned from Boston and moved back to Philadelphia, had an opportunity to work for an amazing organization called En-ROADS. At the time, you may remember Pat Coulter,
absolutely,
executive director of En-ROADS. And then I have to give a big shout out to Accenture, because my transition from the nonprofit sector at En-ROADS was transitioning over to Accenture. And it was probably some of the most rewarding and challenging experience that I've ever had working for an amazing management and technology consulting firm. And after getting sort of the business pedigree of an Accenture, I realized that I wanted to make sure that I was using my time and talent in a way to be more of a servant leader. I wanted to be on the ground every day, using the skills that I had gained at Accenture, but using it more for community impact on an everyday basis, right? And so I transitioned. I went to United Way and had a good couple of years at United Way, really learning philanthropy, sort of being on the other side when actually funding decisions are being made. Had a great opportunity to work with Otis Bullock at Diversified Community Services as the director of the Dixon House. And anyone who works in a community understands that is just a different experience where you are embedded and really get a real sense of some of the challenges and barriers and opportunities, particularly for me was in the Point Breeze section of South Philadelphia. And then going on to Peirce College, we heard from Dr. Caro earlier, an amazing, extraordinary leader in the region, and having worked with Uwe Coles and Jim Murgiati, when I was at Peirce. And so I think for me, Charmaine, having all of those different experiences really kind of gave me an orbital view of all the different sectors, all the different players, all the different decision makers that are really driving our work in the region, and really sort of cemented and anchored my values, my passions, my interests around making sure that people have the right education, the right skills, the right training, and the right social networks in order for them to live out their best selves.
Well, Malik, thank you. And as you know, though, a really great plan always has to be ready for disruption, right? I mean, we sort of look and say, okay, if we sort of like walk one foot in front of the other, we think that we're going to get from North Philadelphia to West Philadelphia, maybe to Center City and beyond. But we know that, they may close down a highway or something may change. Now we're looking at, a pandemic, okay? And we're looking at COVID-19. We're looking at heightened attention to racism and injustice in our society. Unfortunately, as you mentioned before, the killing of Mr. Wallace last night, which appears, at least in the early stories, to have some really big questions about how that happened and how the community is responding. How do you sort of, again, encourage people to continue their education in the midst of uncertainty around income and housing and issues of violence and or marginalization in our communities? How do you keep people inspired at Graduate Philadelphia to get them to really want to be a part of driving change for the long term?
Sure, Charmaine, that's a really, really good question. I think, Charmaine, we have some amazing folks who work for Graduate Philadelphia. We have some amazing, what we call college success advisors, college navigators. And, what the secret sauce is that they really approach their work from a personal frame of reference, right? They were adult comebackers. They were lower to moderate income individuals. And so they understand that there isn't a separation between someone going to school and all of the different challenges that are around us. They're not insulated from, the civic unrest and the fact that Black Lives Matter and some of the economic dislocation that has happened as a result of COVID. And so I think because we have folks that have that frame of reference, we're able to inspire and instill a level of trust, with the people who we serve. And because, there is a frame of reference and because we have established trust, people are inspired to keep going, right? They have a level of grit and persistence and determination that is unparalleled, right? And they recognize that through the storms, all the things that you just mentioned, there's a recognition that, again, education can be that equalizer, right? It can be, when we complement it with the different things that I mentioned earlier. And so I've been inspired when I hear the stories of our adult comebackers that they are persisting, right? That they're finding ways. And I think that our higher education partners like Peirce and CCP and Chestnut Hill and Temple, they have been responsive, Charmaine, to these externalities that you mentioned, right? And making sure that, maybe a student can't continue right now with their associates, but maybe there are some short courses. Maybe there's a micro credential. Maybe there's a certificate that is more digestible right now as we navigate this crisis, and making that thing, that certificate stackable to an associate's or a bachelor's. And so I think it's just really a combination of our work and the great work of our partners that have inspired our adults to keep going.
Well, that's really great, Malik. And I know we only have a little bit of time left. So I'm going to ask you to look ahead to the world. It's 15 years from now, okay? You're celebrating your 30th anniversary. You're probably a gazillion millionaire, so you're just like a big contributor. You're sitting back somewhere in the world. But imagine Graduate Philadelphia 15 years from now. What would success look like to you based on the fact that you contributed time and leadership to this organization?
Sure. Sure, Charmaine. Wow, I didn't expect the 15 years, so that's a good one, Charmaine. I had to think about that one. So, Charmaine, I think that we have to be nimble. We have to evolve with the times, right? I think Graduate Philadelphia will always have a core mission of helping adults achieve a degree. But we also recognize that our paradigms have to evolve, right? That our mental models, that our service delivery. And we know that, there are a number of other connection points that we need to make. And so I'm so excited that we have folks like Lauren Nessler from PHMC who are really helping us connect, some of the social determinants of health, like living wage employment and educational attainment, to public health. I'm so excited that we have Pat Eiting as our board chair that's really going to make a stronger connection to labor. I'm really excited about Ann Nevins from PIDC joining, because we know that, small businesses were devastated, by COVID-19 for some because they lack certain digital capabilities. And we've talked to our college partners about really creating curriculum and content that will meet the needs of small business owners. So the graduate of 15 years from now, again, sort of the centerpiece, the core mission is that we're helping adults achieve that degree, but we know that we have to be responsive to some of these other sort of tentacles, that are attached to the everyday lives of our adults in our region. And we want to be that go-to organization. We want to be that go-to organization in communities that when they think about how can I get more education, how can I, attach myself to a social and professional
network. They go to GP. They say GP is it, right?
Yeah, when they say GP, it's it, right? And that's what we're inspiring to be, Charmaine. So, I hope that I can be that gazillionaire that can invest, in an organization like Graduate Philadelphia and invest in the Urban Affairs Coalition.
Yeah, just take a few dollars. Thank you.
But no, thank you so much, Charmaine.
Really, thank you. I'm so excited about your leadership, and we all are here in the community to be here to support you and to learn from you. It's not just that we're sharing and you're taking; it's that you are sharing and giving as well. So again, congratulations. I'm excited to be a part of the Graduate Philadelphia family. I do have my own personal Graduate Philadelphia story, but you got to wait till next year in order to get that on the program.
Okay.
So take care, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Charmaine. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, so let me just give a big heartfelt, warm thank you again to my mentor, my friend, Charmaine Matlock Turner, President and CEO of the Urban Affairs Coalition. On behalf of our host committee, Charmaine, on behalf of our board of directors, just thank you for being here, and thank you for being a huge supporter of our mission and our work. Next on the program, I would like to bring back my new friend from Accenture, Megan Vesely. Megan is going to help close us out for today. Megan?
Thanks, Malik. And wow, what a great event this afternoon. I'm so grateful that we've had the opportunity to gather, albeit virtually, to celebrate such an amazing organization, recognize the accomplishments of the comebackers, and discuss topics that are so incredibly relevant right now. It's inspiring to see the number of organizations and leaders in this community that are aligned to the important objective of making education and workforce development available to those that need and desire it. I have to applaud Graduate Philadelphia for their role in convening this ecosystem, both here today and in their day-to-day programs. On behalf of Accenture, I'd like to again congratulate Malik and the Graduate Philadelphia team on the past 15 years. I very much look forward to what the next 15 will bring, and I'm excited for Accenture to continue partnering with you.
Thank you so much, Megan. And thank you to the Accenture family, David Davis, Nicole, Jason, Prince, Megan. We cannot be more thankful for the Skills to Succeed partnership and for your sponsorship of today's event. I also want to thank Comcast. I want to thank Gwyneth. I want to thank Delilah. I want to thank TD Bank. That is Dominique and Aaron and Arlene and Damian Gee. I would love to thank Jennifer Young from Verizon, Jeanie Heffernan from Independence, Dr. Guy Generals at Community College of Philadelphia, Dakota at Lumina, Lauren Nessler, and the entire team, Richard Cohen at PHMC, Rob Wonderling at the Chamber of Commerce, Dan Fitzpatrick and Bill DeVito at Citizens Bank, Ann Nevins at PIDC, Ramona and Kia at PICO. Did I miss anyone? I think I got everyone. It's really important that I called out individual names because these are the individuals behind the scenes that actually made a decision to invest in Graduate Philadelphia and to invest in today's event, and I couldn't thank them enough. I also want to say a quick thank you to our host committee. Again, Ann Nevins, Phil Fitzgerald, Jeanie Heffernan, John Colborn, Pat Eiding, our board chair. Thank you so much, Pat, for your extraordinary leadership. Jeff Hornstein, Councilman Derek Green, Rebecca Foreman. Thank you, Rebecca, for being a founding board member of the Graduate Philadelphia organization. Chantel Fitzgerald, Sulaiman Rahman for moderating the Accenture IBC panel discussion. Harold Epps, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being a big brother. Lauren Nessler at PHMC, Jim Murgiati, former president of Peirce College. Jim, thank you so much for your mentorship and sponsorship. And Carnisha, thank you so much for your support. And last but not least, I have to give a big thank you to John Colborn, chair of the board of the Graduate Network. I want to thank Sallie Glickman, co-founder of Graduate Philadelphia and the Graduate Network. And I want to give a special thank you as I close to Hadass Sheffer. Again, she was our fearless leader. She started this movement. She was the co-founder of Graduate Philadelphia. She took the Graduate Philadelphia model to more than 40 communities across the country. This work would not be possible without her extraordinary leadership. And today, Hadass, we honor you for setting the stage for the next 15 years of Graduate Philadelphia. With that said, I want to thank Witty Gritty. I want to call out Michelle Freeman, Colleen Walsh, Alex Freeman. Thank you so much, Witty Gritty, for helping us design and produce an extraordinary event. Thank you to the Graduate Philadelphia team, Anthony Johnson and Denise Whitaker. Thank you every day for what you do on the ground, working with our adult comebackers. I feel like I'm forgetting someone, so charge it to my head and not my heart if I forgot someone. But thank you for making this event such a huge success. With that said, we are going to adjourn and have a blessed and wonderful Tuesday evening.